Everyone, welcome to a 2-year renewal, I suppose, to the
movies, comics, and life.
Yeah.
Podcasts. I hope you haven't been waiting, because if you have, we apologize.
Yeah, it's been 2 years since we did a last episode. It's like, as we're recording this, it's like the 8th of April, and the last upload we did was the 3rd of April, and
it was right after the Snyder Cut.
Yeah,
so
which that's turned 2 years old as well, which is kind of hard to believe.
And the Spiderverse has only grown since then. It's only been like whoosh.
Well, I'm not sure if it's no, it definitely hasn't, but the fan base is definitely still strong.
Restore the Snyder Cut?
Well, I mean, I'd say it's not as strong as it was whenever it was back in 2021, but at this point, whenever anyone says it, it feels like a dying horse.
More than that, I would think.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is a little well, hopefully we'll see how it goes. I mean, we're doing this for special because, as you can see, we're in person this time, so a better chance than you do the podcast. Yeah, but he's still as fucking annoying as he usually is. It kind of reminds me seeing us in the webcam. They're not on my channel anymore, but like, I remember when we used to do like
reviews or something.
Or reactions.
Talk about reactions or talk about news or something.
I
think we did one where we talked about Jesse Eisenberg's like that first.
But more so the reactions, because we did that with a webcam.
Yeah.
The Jesse Eisenberg one we did most so with like a camera, but this is like generally like a webcam and shit. And
yeah, Spectre, Batman v Superman.
And usually I wouldn't be one for doing. I mean, I'm not that bothered about being in front of a camera for a podcast, but this man was very inclined to be in front of a camera because he loves the fame,
the attention. Yeah.
The attention, yeah. Whereas me, I just don't.
I love it.
Only time I can kind of like accept probably being in front of a camera in terms of recording would be if I were to like be acting in a film, or like if it was for some shit like that. But in terms of like when I'm just having to be myself in front of a camera, I can't. It's really it's frustrating. But yeah, we're in the same room now. Hopefully you can hear us good. And
can you hear me?
Don't do that. I will kill you. Yeah, we've got plenty to talk about. This is basically just going to be a completely ramble episode. Absolutely ramble. We're going to be talking about a lot of shit.
I'm a master rambler, so this duo is going to be just...
Yeah, and you've seen me in my creatively procrastinating podcast, which is all about rambling and shit. But here, like I have a bunch of news and shit saved up from
the past 2 years.
No, definitely not. But the popular stuff that's happened in the past few months, and I've been saving it up. I mean, like, we've got the Flash trailer, and okay, so we've had to transition to my laptop because the computer webcam was freezing and shit. So and we want to get this done just ASAP. So
as you can see, this revival episode is going super well after 2 years.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, like, this is probably a complete pain in the ass for those listening on like Spotify or in audio format. This is probably just complete bullshit. This is why I generally just prefer doing it audio than fucking video, because this stupid shit always happens. But like I said, this is easier, so might as well do it like this. But moving on. As we were saying, a bunch of new trailers has come out, and about a lot of other news, and plenty to ramble about. So yeah, this will just be a nice, fun episode for us to just kind of just talk about, and we'll see. Hopefully, we'll continue on after this. Keep doing it consistently. Not sure if it might be as consistent because in terms of like the life aspect of this podcast, he's got some pretty big changes coming.
Yeah. So, should we start with the life aspect?
That's what I just fucking said, mate.
I'm making sure. Well, last time I was on the podcast, I was living in England.
You're really gonna do the full story?
Yes. It's been 2 years.
It's been 2 years.
And since then...
We got a lot to go over.
And since then, I've left England. I travel around Europe. Nice experience, I recommend. Went back to Portugal, and now I'm going down under to Australia.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, he's going to Australia. And, yeah, he's gonna... What, you're going there to, you know, work and...
To work, and because it'll be winter, so I'm thinking I'll probably work for the winter season, and then when it's summer, when the weather's probably hot as shit, I'll travel around.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
well, we'll see. I haven't gotten there yet, but it's a rough idea of what I'll be doing.
And it might
Plans can change.
It'll give me an excuse or a chance to actually visit Australia to go see him as well, because I mean, I've never been to Australia, but I've definitely always wanted to visit it, even though in spite of all the bloody spiders and
kangaroos.
No, I love kangaroos, but spiders and
crocodiles
and
sharks.
Yeah, shark. Yeah, that's right. There's sharks. Jesus, I might not actually go. I might not.
Scorpions.
But yeah, so it's a
Medusas.
But will you shut the fuck up? There's yeah, so it's a big change for him, and you know, wish him all the luck in you know, it's
the first episode you were wishing me luck for living in England, and now 2 episodes later, 2 years later, wish me luck for living in Australia.
Yeah, and then
it's nice how
the next episode,
the more things change, the more they stay the same.
The next episode will be a decade, and I'll be like, wish him luck for as he gets shipped
living
off.
in Germany.
No, not even in Germany. Like, wish him luck as he's being shipped out to Iraq. To Iraq.
To Ukraine, I would think, but we'll see.
Yeah, Iraq. It's going to be in the army and shit.
Yep.
And then 20 years after that, I'll be like, wish him luck. Because he's dead. No, I'm joking.
Oh, God.
No. Yeah, he's down under 5 feet below. No. No, I'm joking. But yeah, in terms of life stuff for me, it's practically been more or less the same. If you've seen my Creatively Procrastinating podcast, which is just me rambling on about life shit and whatever's on my mind, it's practically been the same since my last ramble. You know, just doing my own shit, dealing with uni, trying to live life and not to die.
I don't think you were in uni the last episode, were you?
What do you mean?
You must have been in college around that. It was 2 years ago. So
no, I mean the last episode of Creatively Procrastinating.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, last
in terms of the...
No, like, I mean, like, in terms of the Movies Comics Alive podcast, yeah, since the last episode, there's been a lot of changes of myself. But yeah, I mean, in terms of, like, this and my other podcast, you know, it's more or less what I ramble on about my stuff. But yeah, I suppose we may as well just jump balls deep into what we're going to discuss about.
Yeah, we both know a lot about going in balls deep and something. I'm not insinuating what I think you're insinuating.
I don't even know why you brought that up.
You're the one that said.
I said balls deep, and then you're the one who was just like, yeah,
but
we know.
Like, oh, balls deep. Well,
people are gonna think we're fucking, mate.
What's going on here?
People are gonna think we're fucking. That's what they're gonna think. Fuck. You've ruined the podcast. I'm finishing this now. But yeah, let's jump right in. In terms of like news, I mean, like I figured, yeah, we'll be rambling on, but I've given ourselves a list of topics and stuff to talk about, so we don't bloody, you know,
go off talking about
whatever
the meaning of life and
for 2 hours.
why coffee is great or something. Who knows where our conversations could.
Well, I mean that'd be something I'd talk about on my other podcast. I'll just do a whole hour and a half talk about
this podcast is sponsored by.
Yeah. If anything, if I get any sponsor because of how much I drink their products, it'll probably be Pepsi Max.
By the way, this video is sponsored by Pepsi.
Yes. Pepsi Max, probably my Wadi as well, Blackcurrant. I drink a lot of their stuff. Coke, a lot of just basically just a lot of beverages sponsor me. You know, Pepsi Max and Coke Zero do that. But yeah, let's jump right in. So I suppose we may as well start off with the Flash trailer that came out. What was it, a month or two ago?
I would say. A month ago. Yeah.
A month ago, and surprisingly enough, it looks really fucking good, and looks so good that quite recently Tom Cruise has seen it and rung up the director about it to rave on about how much he loves it, which is just very Tom Cruise.
The guy who made Top Gun Maverick and the Mission Impossible movies thinks The Flash is really damn good, which is a good sign because those are the kind of movies that are few and far between these days.
Yeah.
Just in the midst of the visual effects heavy movies that. Yeah, it's a good sign. It's a good sign. But all the buzz about The Flash has been really good. I mean, since the test screenings, people have been saying, like, the movie is really good. It's just been, this stuff with a certain individual that, has been tampering with the movie. And even the behind-the-scenes stuff with how long it's been, in the making.
But yeah, I mean, like, in terms of the Flash trailer, yeah, it's surprising to say that it does look really good. And there's a lot of aspects about it that look really promising, and some aspects about it that kind of frustrate me at the same time. All the positive shit about it, I could say, is Michael Keaton, as seeing him as in the role. I remember
it's the consistent. I think in terms of consistent things that I can speak for the both of us, but in terms of consistent things that we've been interested in The Flash, it has been Michael Keaton as Batman. Like, that's been the consistent thing, because it's Michael Keaton as Batman. I mean, who would be foolish enough to cancel a movie that has him as Batman for taxes? Who would be foolish to do that? Who, I ask, who?
But yeah, and there's very interesting added basically continuity to his Batman as well. Like in the international trailer, we got to see literally a complete room full of bat suits that apparently he's worn throughout the years, and I can, as a costume fanatic myself, like seeing that was nerdgasmic.
Those costumes look really good.
I can do it like in my head canon. There was the like what I think is like I'll probably try and put an image around here if you're listening to the podcast format. If not, but I'll try and describe it for you. Audio format, I mean, sorry, but like in video, I'll probably try and put it up. Basically, like in the row that it starts off with a sort of like golden age looking suit with holsters, and it ends on like a sort of like, people tend to say it's a submarine type of suit. No, it was like, no, not the submarine suit. It was like a kind of like a Gotham by Gaslight sort of type suit.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Yeah. It was like it ends with that way. So I feel like it goes in that chronological order in my head canon. So I feel like the Golden Age suit, which is basically essentially it has the 66 emblem. It has a holster gun. It has like the Golden Age type of cowl, and the holsters are for like his back cramples and shit. I think that's his very first suit, and followed by, this is probably my favorite one, which is like a blue and gray version of the 89. Well, kind of like the 89 suit he has. But it has like the 89 emblem with the very, very distinct emblem that was only used for 89. Like, it's like, it has the weird, like, extra pointy bits on the emblem at the bottom. But that's used there, and in my head canon, and it also has the white eyes, which is fucking dope. My head canon is like, this is the suit this was his like year 2 suit, and about like he had it on for a bit, and he was like, colors are too bright. Oh, I can't see out of this shit, and he just went full black, and that's where we got the 89 suit in that movie, and then obviously it was Batman Returns, and after Returns, I think it was the
Flash suit, no?
No.
Is there another suit before
the Flash suit is the one he has in the center, which is like his recent one, the one he wears now.
So he has another one after
Well, yeah, the one after that, I think, is the it's like a sort of like an armored suit, but it has like submarine type of shit to it. It's really hard to explain. But
and I'll be honest, I can't remember exactly how they've looked because it's been like a bit since I've seen the image.
But then after that, it's like a sort of like a Gotham by Gaslight type of suit. Very similar to that, and I think that's probably like the last suit he probably worn. And then we got the Flash suit he has, and that's basically my chronological order of those suits. But they look really, really dope. And I just want to ramble on about that for a couple of minutes because I think that's so cool.
Something that people were noticing with the Flash was that it's done a lot for blue and grey suits, like more so than a lot of
even
Batman
Affleck.
movies have been doing for I don't know how many years. Because even Affleck's wearing a blue and grey suit, and now this.
Okay, sorry, I had to pause it because I got an order from eBay that just needs collecting, so I had to request my driver to go pick it up for me.
His personal driver.
Yeah. But yeah, as we were saying about the Flash trailer, what were we talking about? We just finished talking about the bat suits.
The blue and grey suit.
Well, no, we talked about the bat suits.
Maybe perhaps I was going to talk about Keaton, I think.
Well, we were.
Well, I was going to... I think what I was going to say was... Well, what I want to say is... I remember there was a leaked image of Keaton that came out maybe like some time ago. And I was a bit like, okay, let's see how it is in live action. And he was like, that doesn't look very good.
Yeah, the suit he does wear in the movie still looks a bit off.
Yeah, I think when he entered the frame, I was a bit like, But then when he spoke, I was like, oh shit, it's Batman.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The guy sounds exactly the same. It's incredible. He hasn't acted in a role for 30 years and he still sounds fantastic. It's unbelievable. The guy's fantastic, honestly.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton is...
He is Batman.
He is Batman.
Yeah.
Like, when he says, I'm Batman, I'm like, damn fucking right, you're Batman. Who else?
Yeah. All the Batman stuff was really cool, and it was also really cool to see that Michael Shannon is back as Zod. They're doing...
Underrated actor.
You know. But as I was saying about being excited for this movie and a lot of frustrating aspects about it is that this does very much feel like to be like the sort of like end all for the DC EU, more or less. And it does feel like that way, but unfortunately it isn't the final DCEU movie, it's Aquaman 2.
The honor goes to Aquaman 2.
Which makes no sense because it sounds like it's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like...
But isn't Aquaman the movie that's made the most money of all the DCU movies? Because it made $1 billion, didn't it?
Yeah. I think it is.
Oh my god, I can't believe that Aquaman made more money than Batman v Superman. That's kind of nuts. What world do we live in? Justice League as well?
Yeah, true. But yeah, I mean, like, frustrating aspects is like, it's because like this movie feels like because it's it seems like whenever Flash does reset the timeline, because obviously it's based off Flashpoint, and if you don't know the crux of that story, Flash goes back in time to save his mom from being killed, and that fucks up the future. And whenever he returns to the present or whatever the timeline is, it's completely fucked up. Things are different, and he perhaps has no powers at all. There's probably something different with Batman. It could be Michael Keaton. It could be Bruce Wayne's dad.
Yeah, could be.
And then
and Superman might be different as well.
Yeah.
It might either be a completely skinny dude or it could be Supergirl.
Which in this case, this is what I mean. It's like, but it's also the different aspects that like, it is based off Flashpoint, but they're doing their own DCU spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is certainly, I mean, it was always designed to be a soft reboot of the DCU, for sure, but I don't think that anyone, the producers of this movie and the people financing this movie never realized at the time that this would indeed be, like, the end of the DCU, essentially, like, full on.
Yeah. But also, like, what I'm thinking about what's frustrating about it is the fact that bloody we're basically returning to the events of Man of Steel, which is fitting for, like, like we said, this being a soft reboot for the DCU, and you probably want to go, it's it's poetic, it rhymes, or it's like poetry, it rhymes, and go ending it where it started. And obviously we're seeing the events of Man of Steel again, and we're seeing Michael Shannon again, and it's like,
and Fiora's in this as well.
Fiora's is in this as well, and we're seeing set pieces from Man of Steel, like the World Engine, and the fight in the desert is looking to happen again, like where Superman surrenders himself in Man of Steel, but this time it looks like they're gonna have a fucking fight there, which looks really dope. But it just makes it more frustrating because, look, Supergirl looks dope. I'll admit, she looks really cool, but it should be Henry. It should be fucking Henry, really, to really make him feel.
I think that, first of all, with all the behind-the-scenes drama surrounding Henry and Warner Brothers and then the way that ended, it was a fucking shitstorm. I think another reason why they decided not to use Henry in this was because since they were recapping the events of Man of Steel, I think they would have felt like they were literally repeating the movie step by step by having Henry come back, and that might have been their story reasoning for having Supergirl in there, just to make it different. It is a shame that Henry isn't in this. I mean, at all. Yeah,
that too. Like, I mean, like, at least if we had Henry during the opening and the moments, because like
which I think was supposed to happen, but
wasn't it said, like, they said recently that both Gal Gadot's and Henry Cavill scenes were cut, didn't they? They did say Gal Gadot was cut.
Henry Cavill, I think, was cut for sure, but Gal Gadot, I think, is still in there. Especially after a movie that you saw that might feature her, might not.
But that's what I mean. It's like,
and Affleck described a scene that involves her, so I think she's in it.
But that's what I mean. It's like Gal Gadot is like they said that Gal Gadot and Henry's scenes were cut, but now Gal Gadot is actually looks like she's still in the movie. So could it be a possibility that they might surprise us and keep Cavill in?
That would be nice. I would love to see him one last time because. I mean, to be honest, like, what would be the reasoning not to keep him in? Whatever scene it is, it's like, I don't know. It's like if they're going to keep Gal Gadot and Affleck in it. Well, Affleck is a lot more because he has probably a more integral role to the story. But like I said, if Gal Gadot was somehow a factor that could have been cut, whether it would be or not. I think she wasn't cut because she's involved with Affleck. I think that's probably why she wasn't cut. Henry probably isn't because his stuff, according to sources, was filmed around the same time he filmed his cameo for Black Adam. So it must have been something that Ezra would have filmed later, and then they added it in, and So I think it was more easily cut. It shouldn't, because the fans have spoken. We would like to see Henry, even if he isn't gonna be Superman now. But it'd be nice to see him one last time. But yeah, I mean, I can also comprehend why Warner Brothers might feel like, especially after Black Adam. I mean, God, yeah. I think we could go on the whole episode about just that drama, but I don't know.
Yeah. But actually, speaking of Henry, I think I said on the I'm not sure if you saw the last episode of the Creatively Procrastinating podcast, but I did talk about.
Oh yes.
I did talk about a certain Hot Toys that I was having my eye on. That was at a really good price. Oh no, I got it. No. A really good price, but actually for guys listening, I'm sorry, but if you're watching this on video,
just imagine something amazing.
I ended up winning it. I got Hot Toys Man of Steel Henry Cavill Superman for a bargain of a price. And just to go on a little nerdy tangent, what's so cool about this Hot Toys is that when you first get the Hot Toys Henry Cavill Man of Steel Superman, that's what this one is. There's actually some inaccuracy with the suit, where basically the S and the collar, there's a big gap between the S and between the collar and the S, and in the movie that isn't the case. They're quite there's basically barely a gap. It is quite close together, and basically what a lot of people do with their Hot Toys Superman whenever they get it is that they mod it, and they'll take they put these weird planks or piece of plastic under the cape that elevates it a bit, and it looks a bit weird. But they take those out and they shorten the collar a bit and pull it in, so the collar and the S are more closer together, which you can see if you're watching the video, you could probably see that there is no gap here. It's accurate to the film. But that's the thing, that was the cool thing about getting this Hot Toys, because I always wanted this figure, but I always knew that if I wanted to get accurate, I'd have to go through that process of modding it and shit. And with my anxiety and shit like that, I would fucking freak out trying to mod this figure, because it's a piece of art, really. But luckily, I got it for a bargain price, and it was already pre-modded, so it already looks accurate to the film. And my God, it looks so good.
Yep.
I absolutely love this figure, and it's definitely one of the best stuff I own, right next to the Hot Toys Christopher Reeve, which we will talk about something that does involve Christopher Reeve very later, which is really, really special, and it was a really great experience. But yeah, I just wanted to give that little tangent. But yeah, having this now is really good. I just wanted to ramble on about it because I did say in the last episode of the Creatively Procrastinating podcast that I had an eye on this after getting the Brandon Routh Superman. So yes, I got it. Really good. In terms of price range, I'll just say this: I got it under £100. £100, and this thing literally sells for over 200. So
that's pretty good.
That is pretty good. That's hot. That is hot. So very good. And it looks, oh my God, I'm sorry for those listening, and if you're watching the video, you can see it. But my God, it looks uncannily like him. It looks absolutely. It's incredible. I made the complaint saying the Batman v Superman and the Justice League one look the head sculpt looks a bit too sinister, and B, it looks like Reed Richards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the Superman and Batman v Superman generally looked more sinister.
Yeah. But so I thought out of all the Hot Toys of the Henry Cavills, this would be the one I'd want to own, and I got it, and I'm so chuffed. Every time I see this thing in the morning and it's there, I'm just oh, it's so good. The material is so nice. I can literally just spend this entire episode of the podcast just looking at this thing. Oh, what a beauty. What a beauty. And I'm having it, I've set out all my Hot Toys on my desk. I used to, on my desk, right, I used to have all my, deodorant and all my casual whatever where it is and shit like that. But I've completely just moved that to my desk or my wardrobe or whatever, and just put all my Hot Toys collectibles out here. So I've got them all set, but I could show them all, but that'd take a bit, and I've already rambled on about Hot Toys. But yeah, I'm very, very happy and very lucky of it. And yeah, seeing that Hot Toys now just frustrates me even more that he's no longer our Superman. But we'll discuss. We'll get to this part in a bit. But like, James Gunn has actually already stated that he has a list of actors that he's looking for the new Superman, which we will discuss in a bit. But back to the Flash trailer. Yeah, it looks really cool. It looks like it's recapping events of Man of Steel, which is really nice to see, and it's cool that we're seeing Michael Shannon again and Fiora, and it's kind of a miracle that this movie does actually look this good in terms of like all the production shit that's really gone through with it.
I mean, this movie was announced around the time
almost a decade ago
the first season of The Flash came out. The Flash is ending pretty damn soon on its 9th season.
Which I will say, actually, I've only just recently started to rewatch the entire season of The Flash. I've done a complete timeline of all the Arrowverse shows to watch in terms of crossovers and shit for myself. It's fucking frustrating, right? To watch, like, this is why I've been so hesitant to ever revisit the Arrowverse in any of the shows, is because it is such a controversial, like, not controversial, it's such a convoluted, that's it, convoluted bunch of shows to watch and understand every aspect of what the fuck is going on, because they do these, there's always mentions of shit that's happening on the shows, and there's always, like, they'll pop up in each other's episodes, and you're kind of like, what the fuck is going on? And Benj gave me a good example of this, where he said, like, his dad, around the time Arrow was coming out, that would be the show he would watch.
Yeah, me and my dad would used to watch Arrow, and there was one crossover, I can't remember which one it was, I think it might have been the one where they were Nazis or something like that, I can't remember. And my dad, I wasn't confused because I kind of understood more or less what was going on, but my dad was absolutely confused. He was like...
It's the Aliens one, wasn't it?
Yeah. Okay, then it might have been the Aliens one. And he was like, why is the Flash here? Why is Supergirl here? That's the thing. When you because the way the CW shows did it is they're like the MCU, where you have to watch every... But even the MCU doesn't do it all of the time, where you have to watch specific things to understand what's going on. But
yeah,
like, if you watch Infinity War, you can watch it not really... I mean, of course, if you watch the other MCU movies, you would have a better understanding, but
yeah,
you could watch Infinity War on its own. However, with the CW shows, you have to watch all of them to understand, like, especially with TV crossovers, it became a bit much, like, after year 3 or year 4 of the CW shows.
But more of the thing is, I've written down an entire, like, notes worth of, like, every crossover, and even not even just, like, every necessary crossover, but, like, every episode where, like, a different character would appear in that episode, whether it even was, like, 2 to 5 minutes or whatever it was, and in which order to watch each episode. So I've gotten that written down, and originally my initial plan was, I'm just going to watch The Flash, and I'll watch the crossovers, whatever that, in the order in which I've listed in this notes I made. But then I was like, well, I'll watch The Flash since that's finishing soon, and then I might rewatch Arrow. I think those are the two shows I'm probably more likely to very definitely rewatch, because Arrow's already finished, and I already have kind of a soft spot for Arrow, because I remember around the time that was growing up, it was really good.
First one too.
Yeah. So Flash and Arrow already have kind of a soft spot for me. The rest of the shows, like Supergirl, like Legends of Tomorrow. Now, initially, I was not planning on doing this, but I did end up with my OCD just downloading all the seasons of both Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow, because I was like, fuck it, whatever. And
downloading legally, by the way, legally downloading.
Legally downloaded. Yes,
Legally?
the CW actually even gifted it for me.
Yep, the CW gave him press copies
in 4K. But yeah. So I've got all those shows, and I don't know if I will watch those shows, but it's there if I want to. And I did also download just the first season of Batwoman, in which I did, around the time that was starting, I did watch the first couple of episodes. It was horrible, but I did download that first season, just in case, but because there's already one episode in that season that is already necessary to watch in terms of crossovers with the unbelievable and unforgettable Crisis on Infinite Earths event of the Arrowverse. I will not get into that topic because I will ramble on about how much it is ass. But yeah, more of the thing is I'm revisiting The Flash as that's finishing soon, and I gotta say rewatching that first season of The Flash is when I think about that first season of The Flash, I think I put it on such a high standard because around that time, I remember, it was also around the time I was watching the first season of The Flash, I was also rewatching Smallville as well, which was also, fucking amazing. I mean, yeah, it has a lot of cringe and a lot of cheese, but it's still so good. I remember around the time the first season of The Flash was coming out, it was like, I don't know, like around that time, it was like peak comic book superhero television at the time, really. Like yeah, it had the the CW cheesiness and shit, but it also had like such great plot twists and stuff like that. And it was like, we had Arrow, and that was taking itself more seriously and shit. But it was like the first time we'd really seen in like a superhero show that really felt like a comic book, It was really, really cool. And then Daredevil came out around that time as well.
Yeah, Daredevil came out.
So it was like I feel like that was probably like around the golden age of superhero television, in my opinion, is around that 2011 to. Well, I mean, I want to count Smallville as well because that was also a pretty good time for television because we had like shows like Spectacular Spider-Man and Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes, and even Just League Unlimited that was still going on around the time of Smallville. So we had some pretty banger superhero television going on around that time. But yeah, like I just remember that first season of The Flash on such high regard, and I always hesitated ever revisiting it. And funny enough, the first season of The Flash was the only season of The Flash I ever watched. The second season, I probably saw maybe the first couple of episodes, but it was around the time where I was moving to Ireland, and I didn't have any Wi-Fi in this new place we were just staying at, so I had to rely on Benj to send me episodes of...
Yep, I would be sending him copies of The Flash and Arrow and probably something else as well, I think.
No, it was just... I think it was those two. Yeah, it was just those two. And,
I can't remember.
Yeah, I probably watched the first couple of episodes of both Flash and Arrow, and I barely remember what happened in the Flash. Arrow, I kind of remember as well, but I remember watching and being like, what the fuck is this? I mean, that fourth season of the Arrow was just a complete downhill shit. So, that didn't really help with me wanting to stick with these shows, and like I said, I was having a lot going on around that time. I was starting a new school. I had a lot of life shit going on. But funny enough, I had gotten my first proper girlfriend around that time. So a lot of shit was going on, and I kind of just lost track of it. Not basically on purpose or anything, but I think it's safe to say I stopped at a pretty good time because every time after that I always heard it just went completely downhill.
I think the second
season of the Flash
season is fine.
Yeah.
The third season,
yeah.
And then I quit around the fourth season. Yeah. And I think it got worse and worse after that, from what I've heard.
Apparently, Arrowverse shows have the curse of having the fourth season always be the worst. Except, funny enough, Supergirl. Supergirl is the one apparently that doesn't have a really bad fourth season. That actually has a solid one.
I don't know, but is there any actual good seasons of Supergirl though? Is the actual question.
I don't know. I really don't know. Like, I remember around the time I remember. I think you and me. They around the time that very first episode of Supergirl came out, it was leaked. Yeah.
Yes.
And we both watched
it was
it.
leaked earlier, and I did watch the whole first season of Supergirl and the second, I think.
And
maybe even some of the third. I think that may have been the time that the sixth season of Arrow came out and the fourth season of Flash came out, and I just kind of stopped watching after.
Even after that first episode of Supergirl, I was like, no, I can't watch this. It was just too much cheese, and it was just I just could not get into it. And like. Funny enough, another show that's just returned just now is Superman and Lois. Superman and Lois season 3, which has just kicked off, and it's going like Superman and Lois. I think I've discussed this before. I think I've talked about it on the Movies, Comics, and Life podcast. Have I?
We talked about the pilot, I think.
I think we did.
I think we did. The pilot.
Well, since then, since then, the show's been fucking amazing. It's some of the best Superman stuff we have right now. I gotta say, this year is a really kick-ass year for Superman. It's its 85th anniversary, the 45th anniversary for Superman the movie. We've got a new animated show coming that they just released a teaser for, the My Adventures of Superman, which is also going to be on Adult Swim. And the teaser, thankfully, looks more promising than I was worried it was going to be, which was I was worried after a recent show that came out called Velma, which was like a basically diverse, for the sake of it, interpretation of the Scooby-Doo universe, and making characters different races and different sexualities just for the sake of whatever, I don't know, to be relevant. And I was worried that would be the case for the show of My Adventures of Superman, just because like I could tell by the art style of these characters that they're taking some liberties with them in terms of race swapping and whatever. And hopefully it serves a purpose. Well, it doesn't have to serve a purpose, but it has to, like, it's just, I just don't want it to be like face front in the show, like, look at this character, he is this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't completely change the character drastically, then...
And they don't make a big deal out of it, you know what I mean? Yeah. Which I gotta admit, the Arrowverse itself was actually quite known for doing stupid shit like that, making characters different sexualities or race swapping, and then make a big fucking deal out of it.
I can't think of any specific examples, but yeah, I would think the CW is prone to do stuff like that.
I remember one thing. I can't remember which show it was. It was either Supergirl or something else, but it was like a conversation between these two characters. It was like the father and a daughter, and they were having this conversation about a bunch of shit. And the daughter was saying something about, I know you have these issues with me or something. And then as she was about to finish a sentence, the father just says, "What? Because you're a lesbian?" You know, I was like,
"That's Supergirl."
Yeah, Supergirl. Yeah, and I swear to God, it was just like, oh my God. But yeah, it's just shit like that. But yeah, like that new teaser that they released for that show, it looks good. Animation looks, kind of reminds me of the animation from the 2017 Spider-Man show, but actually looks better because they actually added shading to it, which is what completely lacked with that 2017 Spider-Man show, and why the animation looks so shit. Just had no shading. Brown Table Studios, or Brown Table, is that? No, Brown. You know the video.
The YouTuber.
Yeah, he did a great video talking about the animation and how much shading would really help it. But this show has that. And it looks promising, and obviously it's a younger take on these characters. Jack Quaid from The Boys is playing Superman, and I'm open to it, and I think I'm looking forward to it, and so yeah, like as I was saying, it's a pretty kick-ass year for Superman. We've got Superman Lois, new comic run for Superman by Joshua Williamson that's been pretty good so far. We've got the Fleischer cartoons coming on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
We've got a new 4K Blu-ray steelbook of Superman, the complete collection, and
Oh, of the Christopher Reeve.
Yeah. And that also has the Richard Donner cut, thankfully. Another criminal thing too is that they have not released a 4K version of Superman Returns. That's despicable. That movie would look gorgeous in 4K.
Yeah, I will say. Yeah,
I say
that airplane scene in 4K would be nice.
That too, and like some of the cinematography in that movie is really good.
Yes, there are some shots of Superman flying in that movie that I remember.
Yeah,
I can kind of picture.
It has some of the best Superman flying moments. Here's a thing. Here's a little nerdy whatever. But the thing that always kind of frustrates me with Superman these days is that every time he takes off in front of people, he does these. He basically breaks the sound barrier every time he flies off, and it's like that even on Superman and Lois. It's practically every thing, and it's sort of like sometimes with Superman, he doesn't have to do that in front of everyone. Like sometimes a nice little gentle, like what Chris Reeve would do in front of people when he's talking to Lois or some shit, he would just gently just fly off. And
it fits Superman more as well for him to just.
If Superman does that, do it in front of characters like Lex Luthor. He's like, he's making a point like, "Bitch, I'm Superman."
Pay for this damage that I've just made.
Oh yeah, I don't know, like just some shit like that it works. Or he's in a complete rush, like he hears danger. But when he's like talking to Lois, and he's like, "Lois, gotta go," and he's just like, But that was a completely side tangent. But like as to say, Superman Returns has some of the best flying sequences and shit. Another thing I think they should also do, they should bring back for Superman, is flying sequences between him and Lois. That is actually a movie. I think that is actually a trope that I've really missed from in Superman media, is having just a sequence of Superman and Lois flying. I'm surprised Superman and Lois have not done that. Have had a scene where like literally a show that's called Superman.
It's only briefly kind of seen in the pilot, isn't it?
It's like in a montage. It doesn't bloody count. It's like them just kissing as they float a bit. But I mean, like just like a nice 5 to 10 minute moment, just like Superman the movie and Superman Returns, and even some of the other Superman movies of Christopher Reeve. Like 4, it wasn't that good. Superman 2 had a bit of it, but like just like gentle moments of Superman and Lois flying together, I feel like should be a what's the word, a
necessity?
Not necessity, but like a something that we could see in like like Spider-Man has to have a final swing.
Mm-hmm. Right, it complements it and makes it better.
Yeah, well, it complements it and you expect it. And I'm not saying do that for every Superman movie, because I think then it will just get really repetitive and really like, okay, when's the fight with Lois going to happen? But like perhaps in like the very first movie of whatever new Superman movie it is, or show, or whatever, there should be a nice gentle moment with Superman and Lois flying.
Yeah.
Because that moment in the Chris Reeve Superman movie is a classic, and it's so beautiful.
But don't do the final, he's flying into the air.
That
thing, because only Christopher Reeve will be able to pull that off. Not many other actors can do that. So
do you think Brandon Routh did it fairly well?
Yeah.
He did it twice. He did it in
he has an excuse. He's playing the Christopher Reeve version, so he could get away with that. But I think Zack Snyder tried to do it.
Did he?
In Man of Steel. There was like one shot where he was in space.
No, that doesn't. No, that was just a cool ass.
Not much, I think.
I mean, I guess, but I just thought it was just like a cool flight. I know what moment you're talking about, but I thought that was just a cool cinematic flight moment, really. But you could probably say at the very end of Man of Steel, where he's basically in front of the camera and he does that little smile. That could be
but that's not. I mean, it's
So,
but it's directed at Lois, not at the audience. But
that's what I mean. Like it's directed at Lois, but it's like a way of kind of like he's doing it at Lois, but also at us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, But I don't know. Maybe that should be a trope. At the end of every Superman movie, Superman smiles at the camera, more or less. But like it could be into a character and winks. Yes, makes it really. Yeah, that would be a nice thing. But we've really gone off tangent. But the safe to say is, it's a really good year for Superman. A lot of shit happening, and it's really good. Yeah, Superman Lois is back, and it's been really kick-ass. But Christ, we really went off to our topic there.
Jesus, I can't even remember what.
Yeah. Just try and like as I was saying, I'm rewatching the Flash show from the start, and that first season is still as peak as it was whenever I
Yeah, the first season of Flash. I mean, there's the advantage that the first couple of seasons of Arrow has and the first season of Flash has is that they're mostly like doing their own thing, and that's why the second season of Arrow is really good.
Yeah,
and even the fifth season of Arrow, which I've seen, does like mostly its own thing, and it's really good.
Yeah,
because it's like going full circle, and yeah. So when the Arrowverse shows do their own thing, it could probably be very good. But if it tries to connect fucking 10 shows at the same time, then less chance.
Yeah. But yeah, just to say, I'm starting the Flash. I'm gonna start watching the Flash again. I'm still in season 1, taking my time with it. It's not like I'm binging it and shit. Trust me, I'm in no rush to get to the recent season of the Flash. I have seen the fucking shit that's going on in that show. And apparently, the most recent episode that they released is the lowest rating episode of the entire show. So it doesn't give me any.
Really?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah,
Oof.
but the next episode, as we're recording this, is actually the episode where Oliver Queen comes back. But they're thankfully they're doing it in a way where it's not necessarily he's being brought back from the dead. It looks like it's going to be another multiverse type of Crisis on Infinite Earths type of shit, where the Flash will be in this sort of like different universe, but in this universe or something, or Afterworld or whatever, some shit. The dead can interact in it, and that's how they bring Oliver back. So that's cool. And if it works, that might be one episode I might just watch for the sake of it. I don't have to like really. I'll see if I watch it and understand what's going on just for that nice little crossover. But we'll see. But anyways, back to the Flash trailer. Let's try and wrap this up a bit because I feel like we're going on too long about this. Yeah, trailer looks dope. Lot of cool things. I gotta admit, after seeing this trailer, a part of me was also like, you know what? Maybe I could live in the world where Michael Keaton stays on as Batman.
Yeah, I mean that was probably the initial plan, but
perhaps preferably not as perhaps a DCU Batman, but like in a world where like maybe we get this movie and then they do more movies with Keaton, but it's in his own universe, like
Batman Beyond. Yeah, that would be cool.
They were gonna do a Batman Beyond movie. That was a thing they literally said. I don't know why they said this or why it got out, and just said like, yeah, we're gonna do it, but then we're not. Like, why would you say that? Why would you give people that sort of like news and expect us to just be like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, just say that and just let it pass? That's what everyone wants. But like, just don't tell anyone. Just say like, oh yeah, it's done after Flash.
I think that kind of stuff would have gotten out, so they just like put it out there and said, oh, by the way, we were planning this, but it's cancelled now, so sucks. But
it sucks, yeah, but that's just frustrating. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they end this film and it seems like going forward, if the DCU, we will have still remaining ties to this DCU, because like literally I just saw yesterday, even after the Superman movie comes out, we're still getting a second season of Peacemaker. And by and by the looks of it, I just saw Fury of the Gods quite recently. Which was just,
I didn't.
Yeah, it was just mid, whatever. But by the end of it, it practically confirms that A, Gal Gadot is likely probably still as Wonder Woman, and B, probably even Zachery Levi as well is still Shazam, to be honest. So
Dwayne Johnson's like, curses?
Yeah.
Because he's like, I'm not Black Adam, but Zachary Levi might be Shazam.
Yeah, he's jealous because Zachary Levi is more likely to change the hierarchy of the DC universe than he is. But I gotta admit, to be honest too, like, Zachary Levi is starting to really get in my fucking nerves lately. Like, this man is really... He's just... I'm trying not to ramble on too much about this, but he's just... He's been really desperate with this film. Really desperate about how poorly it's been viewed. And he's like... we're actually, as the time we're recording this, we're going to go see John Wick 4 later. But once John Wick 4 came out, he was like saying... Oh, because like it was competing with Shazam: Fury of the Gods, and it was performing better. But he was like saying, if you want to go see a movie, yeah, go see John Wick 4. If you want to see people being killed and all action sequences, but it's not a family movie. And if you want to take your family to go see a nice child movie, go see Fury of the Gods. And like I watched that, and it's like it's so desperate, and that's like it's shit like that. And also when he's at Comic-Con panels, the way he just gets just the way he goes on sometimes, and it's just like he has a real, like, it's just his...
Well, I will add to that because
you've seen him.
Yes, you may have seen a clip around the time Henry was fired of Zachary Levi talking about his future in the DCU.
Yeah,
I was at that panel, and I actually sent you a video at the time of him specifically, that specific quote he when he was talking about it, because I knew it was going to make headlines. He's very commanding, like, I saw Daphne Keene at a panel like before, and they were like really chill and shit. But then when it was Zachary Levi and there was a line of people wanting to ask him questions, he stood up, he took control of the panel. The guy is very commanding, very tall. I could tell from his shadow, like in the corner, like that it was him. Like, I guess very tall.
That energy is good. Like it is nice, refreshing.
Yeah,
energy.
Yeah, he is very commanding. It's just, it's like I don't know. There's something a bit.
There's like I mean, like for a good example of what you were saying about taking the mic and maybe making it a bit more commanding would be an actor like Michael Rosenbaum.
Michael Rosenbaum. Yeah, I remember when we went.
He took the mic and he went out and do shit, but it was like nice and it was funny. It was fun to watch.
Michael Rosenbaum was very funny.
He wasn't really being disrespectful or narcissistic, or not narcissistic, or just narcissist. Yeah, and making statements about shit.
The thing is as well at the Comic-Con I went to is that speaking of desperate, some of the questions that people would ask was they would ask a question, then they would say, because the prices for autographs and meet and greets were obscene prices, especially for Portugal standards.
Yeah.
And people like, oh, Zach, can we get a free hug? Can we get a free photo, free selfie?
Yeah.
And then he would always be like, no, I'm sorry, stuff like this, and like trying to be polite about it. And I would cringe in my seat because I knew the moment that they would ask that, it wouldn't happen because I saw the prices. There was, if he did it for one, then he was going to do it for everyone. Essentially, it was quite embarrassing. Also, there were two questions about his future at the DCU. One of them was, what character would he play if he couldn't play Shazam? He said a Green Lantern member. So if Shazam isn't happening, maybe be lucky and get him to play Hal Jordan.
No, not Hal Jordan. I was going to say, like, maybe, even though this character is ginger, but I could see him, just from his attitude, he'd play a good
Guy Gardner,
yeah.
And then there were 3 or 4...
Get punched in the face by Batman. I'd be alright with that.
Speaking of being punched in the face, there were 3 or 4 questions about if he would fight Black Adam, when he would fight Black Adam. And then one of the quotes that he said was, oh, because I would love to fight Black Adam because I'd love to punch Dwayne Johnson in the face. And then he was like, haha, I'm kidding, guys. And then the next question, the next guy came on, asked the question, was like, hey, Zach, by the way, just want to say, I would love to see you punch Dwayne Johnson in the face. I was laughing in my seat. I was like, bro. I was laughing anyway when he said, I'm kidding about punching Dwayne Johnson in the face, because I could sense there was something there, and it seems like my instincts were correct.
I gotta say though, like with Zachary Levi as Shazam, just a topic of him being that character, and this is something I've always felt as well, and I'm pretty sure if you've read reviews or watched the movie itself, I'm not sure if you would feel the same way. But he, in those movies, feels like, in comparison to the actor who plays Billy Batson as a kid, they feel like two completely different people. The energy he gives off when he's Shazam is just a bit overboard compared to Billy Batson himself. Even in the comics as well, Shazam isn't really that childish and that flamboyant about shit. And it's like, I don't want to say he's miscast, but he just gives too much. He honestly, and if you watch the Weekly Planet or Mr. Sunday Movies, Mason from that podcast made a really, really, really good point. But if you really wanted to have that type of energy and be the Billy Batson kind of match that, he's more in line with Freddy than actually.
And the actor who plays Freddy is really good.
He's really good.
He
carried the second movie by far. He carried the second movie, even a bit of the first one as well. But the first one had heart. That's the thing. The first one had heart, where the second one didn't really have that. The second one felt very generic and like your typical story.
But even the actor who played Billy Batson liked a tweet of someone saying specifically what you're saying, so the actor himself might be in agreement.
Yeah. But I just, I argue this, and I say this as well, but a great Shazam would have been, Alan
Richardson.
Alan Richardson, that's it. From you know him, you've known him from, he plays Aquaman in Smallville, he plays Hawk in Titans.
Most recently, Jack Reacher. Very good series,
Jack Reacher, but he has that sort of like adult but childish energy to him that I feel works for Shazam, and he would be perfect too. I mean, he captures that energy, but he doesn't go overboard with it. You know what I mean? And a great example of it would be like that. What's that show he was a part of?
Blue Mountain State. I have friends who were fans of it, and I watched pretty much the whole thing. And he is by far the most entertaining actor in the show. Yeah, the best actor. And the thing with his character is that he's a complete dumbass, but he's very entertaining to watch. And that kind of energy is present with Shazam to some extent. He's like childish, but he's entertaining to watch. Yeah, I think he would have been a good Shazam.
He would have been a really good Shazam, but you could also say he would be a really good bloody what's that character? Booster Gold, or
yes,
Booster Gold, or I don't know. He'd be great. We were actually even saying he would have been a great Eddie Brock, for example.
Yes, also, yeah.
Yeah, Eddie Brock. But I feel like he would have been the perfect choice for Shazam too. But yeah, that was just a little tangent on Zachery Levi. I don't want to dedicate portions of this podcast to rants about certain like celebrities. But yeah, back to the Flash again. Well, I think we should probably try and wrap this up on the Flash. Do you have anything else to say about it?
I hope it's as good as people are saying it is. I'm looking forward to seeing Michael Keaton as Batman. He's by far the aspect I'm most excited to see, is his return. I just hope it's good, because there's been so much drama and shit going on with the movie, and I just hope that it's good. Yeah. That it's a good movie and just ends the DCU on a good note. Yeah. To some extent. We'll see. I think it's probably good, and yeah, we shall see what the future holds for all of the characters in that movie, and Ezra Miller. James Gunn. I think it's quite clear. Just saying, watch the news. I think the decision is quite clear about what you should do. But, we'll see.
But yeah, basically, I'm very excited for the movie, and I have very high hopes that it will probably end up being that, and Across the Spider-Verse being the best superhero movies of the year.
Yes.
Which I think that'll segue to our next thing, which is they just recently,
Spider-Man.
They just released a new trailer for Across the Spider-Verse. They released another one, an actual teaser trailer, a bit ago, but they just released a recent one, and I mean, I can't really in terms of saying that it looks amazing and fantastic and all that. But yeah, aside from like as I was saying, thankfully it doesn't really give much away story wise. I'd say aside from the fact that Miles apparently he's not accepted in Miguel's spiders apparently society yeah, with a bunch of other spiders.
And it seems to have to do with Miles wanting to change something. And I think the theory going around, I think if it relates back to the first movie, maybe he wants to bring his uncle back.
Perhaps.
But what it could also be is that his father dies, like the PS4 game, and he wants to bring him back.
That could be it. Yeah, haven't thought of it that way, but as I was saying, thankfully it doesn't really give much story elements away aside from Miguel not being happy with Miles at some point. But
a certain teenager who with Doctor Strange changed things. Direct reference.
There is literally a reference to that, and they released an international trailer for this, where literally the first few seconds was free shots from the Raimi movies and
with lines of dialogue.
Yeah, with lines of dialogue. The Raimi
from
movies,
Raimi, Webb,
Shazam, and
lots of movies,
and the Homecoming movies. And I think that's probably on purpose, really.
It was on purpose, and frankly, if those three weren't in these next two Spider-Verse movies, or at least in one of them, it would be a missed opportunity.
Yeah,
100%. At least a cameo has to be in there. So yeah, I think they probably will be in it. The question is, how large are their roles?
I don't think it will be that big, to be honest. I think it would probably be. I'm not too sure. I mean, as we know, Spectacular Spider-Man's in it. Well, I mean, he's in the poster. Not sure how big of a role he'll have in the film.
Insomniac Spider-Man.
Insomniac Spider-Man, which I mean, with some recent stuff that we've seen, actually, they released images for their Marvel Legends figure line of the Spider-Man games, and they released one from Miles Morales, the PS4 version. And literally in the synopsis, it says that Spider-Man and Miles go up or team up against with characters across the multiverse, and it's like when you hear that, it's sort of like as we've seen Peter's that Peter seems to be in this one. It's like, are the events of that gonna impact the game? That'd be some pretty ballsy shit. You know what I mean? And I mean, it could be the case because, Sony, and obviously they have PlayStation, and they could.
Yeah. I mean, they could go that route, but
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. If I mean, to be honest, a part of me kind of hopes that's not the case.
Yeah, I would rather that's not the case, because I would rather it be
that,
its own thing.
That, and I'm starting to probably get a bit fatigued with multiverse Spider-Man shit, because we just had No Way Home, and we're getting this, and the Spider-Man game, I'd rather probably it would just stay to its own thing. Maybe it
already has Venom and Craven as villains. That's already enough for a game, I think.
Yeah, and now having and probably the symbiote is going to be a big factor of it as well. Also. So now having the multiverse be a factor in it. Maybe if they really wanted to, maybe a little mention or something. I don't know, saying damn Miles, that weird interaction with a bunch of Spider-Man was weird or some shit. I don't know. But nonetheless, to say that new Spider-Verse trailer looks really, really dope, and man, bringing back that "What's Up, Danger" in a nice trailer mix was
Can't Stop Me Now.
Yeah, that was a really good mix, and yeah, I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped for this movie. I mean, I've said it before in the podcast how much I love Into the Spider-Verse, and it's just. I don't know what I'll say. It is just such a. I just love those movies, and
yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the best Spider-Man movies ever.
Yeah,
no question. And the sequel has a lot to live up to.
Yeah,
it has a lot to live up to. I hope that it delivers. they're definitely going way larger scale than the first one. So, and it's been divided into 2 parts. So yeah, we shall see. Should be pretty good. I mean, at least the animation will be fantastic.
Oh yeah,
at least
it's like, but man, like June is good. Like I think I've said this before, but June is going to be an absolute killer month for me. Like we're getting the Flash, Across the Spiderverse, and Indiana fucking Jones.
Yeah, Indiana Jones as well.
Dude,
should we mention Indiana Jones quickly?
What, the new trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of much else to say on it in terms of it looks good. I'm really excited about it. The theory that I have about it is that it's going to have time travel or some aspect of it, because we see elements of, but also like the Dial of Destiny gives you that sort of like hint towards it, and we see a lot of sequences of Indy in the past, and my theory about it is that like Indy is going to have a chance to go back to that time period and actually embody his younger self and go through those events. Some shit. Or it might be some aspect of whatever's happening in the present is we see a version of it in the past and it's like going in line. I don't know, they might do some fucking interstellar Inception type of convoluted bullshit. I don't know if that
would go down well.
I don't know if that would work for Indy. I feel like that'd be a bit too complicated, but I think the most simple aspect would be Indy just going back in time and embodying his younger self. I feel like that's the most satisfactory way of doing it and not making it complicated. Go do some Back to the Futures type of shit. I don't know. Go full 80s with it, but I'm excited for it. I love Indy. He is my number one outside of like Marvel or DC action heroes or just general like movie characters in general. Action heroes and probably just characters in general for films. He is my number one. Indy. I love Indy. But yeah, I'm really, really excited. Harrison Ford looks like he's still kicking ass.
Which I mean, to be honest, when the movie was initially announced, I was like, Harrison Ford, I mean, I'm not sure if you're the right, getting a bit old to play Indiana Jones. But I must say, hats off to Harrison Ford, James Mangold, and the team, because I'm watching the trailers and that's not really going through my head. I'm like, this actually looks good. So I hope it's good. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull I don't think is as bad as everyone says it is. Yeah. But
no, I rewatched.
It's certainly, I
rewatched the Indian movies quite recently, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is not that good, to be honest. I watched it and I was like, yeah, there's a lot of pants of this, but still, it is enjoyable, and I do have a bit of a soft spot to it because I remember seeing it in cinemas with my mom and renting it a lot whenever it came out. So. But yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for this, and I think this will likely be the very last Indy film.
I would be shocked if it wasn't the last Indiana Jones movie. I just hope that they don't do something silly like Harrison Ford passes the mantle on to someone else.
Shia LaBeouf appears at the end.
Yeah. Hey, I'm back.
Yeah.
I think Harrison Ford himself has said that he wouldn't do that he is Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I think in response to Chris Pratt, he'll be Indiana Jones. And I respect that because I think in too much, there's too many legacy heroes or, heroes like that just pass the mantle on to someone else. And we just want the originals. We just, invent new heroes. Don't just be lazy and have the same character just be a different character. I think you're getting more or less what I'm saying. But yeah, just don't reboot it, so to speak.
Yeah. But
yeah, looks good. James Mangold as well, very good director. And then Ford v Ferrari are really damn good movies.
And the Wolverine was generally a good movie. It's just that third act that kind of lost it a bit. But I dare to say that was not his fault. That was more so just the story or studio mandating, this is a superhero film. We got to have a very, standard third act for these films to play it safe and so people don't get bored or some shit.
Yeah.
But overall, that movie was still pretty good. But yeah, James Mangold, I feel he's also another hope I have for this film, and he seems to really care for indie. So, super hyped for that. Another thing that I do want to briefly talk about, actually, this is more so important to me than I'm not sure how you would feel about it, but they're doing a new Hellboy reboot.
Yes.
A new Hellboy reboot. Now I fucking love Hellboy. I mean, to be honest, I'll admit I have not fully read the comics. I've started reading some recently, getting into the Mike Mignola run. Really want to get into those. But overall, Hellboy as a character has been a very integral, and he's been one of those characters I've loved ever since a kid. Just the aspect of him, and those Ron Perlman movies meant so much to me.
Yeah, the Del Toro movies are. I mean, especially the first one is.
Even if they're not really, they're arguably very not that. Well, the aspects are accurate, but it does take a lot of liberties from the comics, like a lot of things, especially Hellboy as a character, really. But they're doing it in a reboot, and it's been shortly after we just got one with David Harbour's Hellboy, which I will say, look, Ron Perlman will always be my Hellboy, no matter fucking what, not even just in live action, but even in like voice acting and animation in general. Like they just announced a new Hellboy game, and I was low key hoping it would be Ron Perlman when they released that teaser, but. Surprisingly enough, obviously it's not Ron Perlman, but it's actually the actor who just recently passed away, who was in John Wick.
John Wick and The Wire, Lance Reddick.
Which rest in peace. And that new game, I wasn't sure if I would get it, but I think now I will get it just solely for him, and also it does actually look pretty damn cool in terms of like how it represents the comics.
Yeah, the first trailer did kind of intrigue me. So.
Yeah, and they've released like GIFs and pics of the game, and it does have that sort of like it just looks like the comic coming to life, and I love those type of video games where they really play tribute to the art.
Mm-hmm.
And look, they're doing another reboot now, and they've already cast a new actor as Hellboy, and
yeah.
I mean, and like, look, what I was gonna say is like, and this is, to be honest, I stated this before. I just recently rewatched the reboot because I'd only seen the previous reboot, the 2018 Hellboy movie.
2019.
Yeah. I when I first saw it, it was shit, but I had the mindset of thinking there are some aspects about it that could still be remained, like David Harbour's Hellboy. And some shit like that, but even on like I just rewatched it recently with my father, and yeah, that movie is not good. It is like we didn't even end up finishing it the second time around. It is not really that great, but I still argue to say that David Harbour works as Hellboy, even though his character in it isn't really written well or that likable or shit like that, but his performance still has a bit of that charm that David Harbour has. And what I thought they could do, like when they announced that they were doing a reboot, I was like saying, well, basically do what let's say the Suicide Squad did for the DCU with its previous Suicide Squad movie,
mm-hmm.
which was take what works from that and keep it, but it plays as a soft reboot in a way. Like Margaret Robbie is still Harley. You still get some
Joel Kinnaman's, Rick Flag,
Amanda Waller. Keep it, but it's like a soft reboot, and it's just like you don't even have to mention what happened in the previous film. You could just pretend like it just never happened, or just you could do it.
Just don't mention it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Don't mention it. And have a complete tonal shift, and it'll be fine. No one's going to complain. No one's going to be like, oh, this feels so disconnected from the previous movie. Everyone will be like, thank God it feels disconnected.
Yeah, especially if the previous one wasn't that good, and then this one is good. No one really will care that much.
Exactly. So I feel like that should be the case, but no. It looks like they're really just doing a complete reboot, and they're basing off a very beloved story. I think it's I can't remember what it's called. It's the Crooked Corpse, I think is what it's called. Apparently it's a very classic Hellboy film. I mean, not film, book that was released around the time Hellboy 2 was coming out.
Mm.
But yeah, it's cool they're doing that. But what I thought would be really cool if the only I still argue to say that even though I feel like the reboot is shit, I still argue to say they should still keep the cast of that and continue it forward, but like make it different. But nope, they're completely doing. They've just cast this new dude. I don't know. I can't remember what his name is, but from what I looked at him, I was like, man.
I mean, he could be a good actor, but it's just the thing is, it's way too soon after the last reboot. It's way too soon.
It's way too soon, but it's also like I appreciate the fact that Hollywood do see a light in this universe. Like, it's cool that they're not just like completely abandoning it and being like, well, it didn't work the second time around. We'll just
They should have kind of figured that out after the second Hellboy movie with Del Toro and Ron Perlman and given them a third one, but.
Yeah, but I was thinking, like, if they really want to do a reboot, I feel like a cool thing would be to do it in animation. Do it in animation and have it
like
really,
the comics.
Yeah, and sure, fucking do what a lot of animated movies are doing now and take inspiration from Spiderverse, like Puss in Boots did, which was, really good. But like, really, like, have the art style represent the comics and shit like that, and. That would have been so fucking cool. And like, yeah, I mean, sure, they're probably, the reason why they're probably not doing that is because they're like, oh, animation doesn't perform well as live action films and shit. But like, look, you took a shot with the last live action Hellboy movie and that didn't perform as well, you know what I mean? And I don't know how this one will change. It could perform the same because I just don't know. Because it is so soon after the last Hellboy reboot.
It depends on how good it is. If it's good, then it will probably perform better. Word of mouth might get out.
But if they made it
is so soon after.
If they made it animated and maybe even made it like a streaming service exclusive or some shit like that, you know what I mean?
Could take more risk with it.
More risk with it, and it wouldn't be the biggest loss if it was shit. You know what I mean? And, I'm not saying, like, Hellboy isn't a character that works on the big screen but that, I mean, like, it works, but also a fact about those previous Guillermo del Toro movies is that they're great, but they didn't perform well in theaters. All the Hellboy movies haven't necessarily performed well in theaters as they want them to. And that was why they didn't make a Hellboy 3. Because the second one didn't do as well. And it's just like that. So I feel like do it animated, take more liberties with it, and release it streaming, and it'll probably make it. I mean, like, imagine I was literally going to say it because Guillermo del Toro did a recently animated Pinocchio movie, and I was just about to say, and it was exclusive to Netflix. But imagine if he did an animated Hellboy movie in the style of the comics.
That would be cool.
That'd be cool, and they had Ron Perlman back because Ron Perlman said he would only do it back if Guillermo del Toro was back, and it was an animated film. But then again, I already know if that was the case, they'd be like, "Well, we don't fucking want an animated movie. We want Hellboy free." You know what I mean? So it's already a frustrating case. But yeah, but what I'm trying to say is, imagine like an animated, comic accurate thing that's like on a streaming service like Netflix or Amazon Prime. I don't fucking know, and just I feel that would be the best way to do this reboot. But no, it looks like they're going live action again. And Mike Mignola is apparently writing the script, which
he's writing the script.
Yeah, he's doing the story for it. Which, I mean, I want to say that is exciting and good. No, but he also worked on the story for the reboot. So I don't know. So it just depends on how, and like another thing with that reboot was that it was tackling more than one storyline from the comics.
Oh, an ingredient for success, I see.
Yeah, whereas hopefully this one is just tackling this one storyline. So if it does that and it plays faithful to it and it's really as good as everyone says it is, hopefully this reboot will work out. But yeah, I just want to do a little tangent on Hellboy because I love Hellboy and wanted to discuss that a bit.
Fingers crossed it's a good movie and not garbage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, recently we've watched quite a bit of films, haven't we? I've seen saw Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which was just it's just a waste of time.
I did not see it.
No, it's just...
I also didn't see Ant-Man and the Wasp when it came out because I had a choice between seeing that and Mission Impossible Fallout. And well, I'm sorry, Marvel, Paul Rudd. That was a very easy choice.
Yeah, Quantumania was just... Honestly, it was just... there's one thing I hate most about movies, like, in this case. It's like, I'd rather go see a horrible movie that's just so bad that it's funny or just ridiculous or some shit. But when I come out of a movie and I feel absolutely nothing, I feel blank. I feel like I just wasted my time. That feels worse to me than seeing a really bad movie. Because at least then if I say I saw a really bad movie, yeah, there's some enjoyment, and I could say like, that was so horrible. Oh my god, do you remember that shit or whatever? Or just saying like, I can't believe they made this. But like when I saw Quantumania, I'm like, I
There was a bit of that with Black Adam when I saw it with my friend. Like, we would be looking at each other several times during the movie and be like, Jesus Christ, this dialogue is absolute garbage. But it was also pretty mediocre as well.
It was mediocre, yeah, but with Black Adam, I feel like I still got more enjoyment from seeing Black Adam than Quantumania because of how ridiculous some of the fucking lines of dialogue and some of the visual aspects of it would be. And even then it had that benefit factor of like at the very end of seeing Henry again and geeking out a little bit over that. But with this, there's absolutely nothing. I mean, like, even bloody, like, people say like, oh, but at least Jonathan Majors who played Kang was great. But like, even then, he's still his character in it. I mean,
didn't have much to...
I mean, his performance was good, but like the character himself was not that interesting. I don't really give a shit about Kang. I don't know why everyone's making a big deal out of him. I don't care. Even from Loki, I still didn't really.
I think it was intriguing enough in Loki, but yeah, I can't speak for Ant-Man.
Yeah, but no, I still just didn't. And like they make a big deal out of it of saying like this version, because there's apparently a lot of versions of Kang, but this version of Kang is one of the most scariest and the ones that all the other Kangs are afraid of. But spoiler alert, I guess. But look, he gets his ass beaten by fucking Paul Rudd, and it's sort of like, how am I supposed to take this villain?
Didn't he also kill Thor? Apparently, I saw.
Yeah. Apparently killed Thor. It's like, yeah.
But he's beaten by Ant-Man.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, I just think to myself, like, right, so we're gonna get a fucking Kang Dynasty Avengers movie, and apparently this is the Kang that a lot of them were afraid of, and they're making a movie, and like he got his ass kicked by Paul Rudd. And now you expect me to be intimidated by a bunch of other Kangs, and I just don't give a shit. I don't. I'm sorry, but like after this. And it's really been the case for this, but the MCU has just been it's really just been a downwards, like ever since Endgame, it just has not been
the same.
No,
definitely not. Yeah, I think it actually would have been wiser for them to end after Endgame.
Yeah.
But of course, Disney, where Disney sees money, they see,
Like, look, No Way Home was an exception, but like...
Yeah, No Way Home was definitely
it was an exception, but like...
Because they did something different. They actually, did something pretty cool, but with the rest,
they did something cool, but it's like... And I've said this before to you and a lot of people, but it's like... It's that, but it's also cheating in a way, because the movie relies so heavily on fan service and beloved... Yeah. Whereas if you strip that movie completely of that aspect, it would have been another mid.
Yeah, it would have been more like Far From Home sort of.
Absolutely, so like I feel like.
But that's the advantage the movie has, and I think even the writers and John Watts saw that. And their true saving grace was the villain.
And they had another chance to do that with Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness. They had another chance to take a bunch of liberties and advantages like that. But
especially with Sam Raimi as a director. I don't know what happened there.
But still, it was just like I watched it and I come out of it and I was like, this feels like they barely scratched the surface of what the title describes this movie to be, which is the multiverse of madness. Like, I feel like I saw more. You know what? I'm even gonna make this fucking comparison, which is a pretty shitty one, but I feel like I saw more in the Crisis of Infinite Earths crossover of the Arrowverse in terms of the multiverse shit than I did here. But yeah, look, the MCU is just. I feel like this might be the. And like I said, if James Gunn's new DCU does not... Because like I felt this way after seeing Quantumania, but I was like, after seeing that, I am so kind of low-key done with these shared universe films. You know, it's like it's just they all feel the same. And even Fury of the Gods didn't really help either, seeing that recently. And it just feels like when I go to see these movies, I'm just going to see it for the sake of it. Like, I don't get anything after it anymore. And I'm really hoping that James Gunn, with this new DCU, I want to come out of that movie really just filled with emotion and floored and something to talk about. And like the last time I don't feel this, like, I don't feel this way towards it now as I did then. But when, like, I remember when I went to go see Man of Steel in cinemas for the very first time. And then if you remember me back when I started this channel,
10 years ago.
10 years ago, Jesus Christ. I was over the moon with that movie, and like it hit me in a way in cinemas that, you know, some movies don't do to me anymore these days, you know, like.
But the reality could be that because, you know, we were very young back then, that maybe these movies are doing the same thing for kids that are that age, perhaps. It's just for like older fans who have been through, like, we've seen the inception of the MCU, and we've seen.
But I gotta admit, you know, like a lot.
You know, the build up to all this. They just have to change it up.
I think the last time I felt real something like after a movie and felt a bit of a change was probably Joker.
Yeah, because it's a character study that was R-rated, and they actually explored different things, even though it was basically Taxi Driving King of Comedy, but adding a Joker character and then getting $1 billion because it's Joker, and it wouldn't have made $1 billion if it wasn't Joker. But still pretty good. Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, you know, but with this new DCU, I really want this to be something fresh and a new. If they really want to continue doing these shared universes, this really has to hit the floor for me, because if it's nothing, I'm just, you know, I'll probably stick around for these, you know, probably more so movies like the Batman or Joker or some shit like that, and maybe when it comes to like these other films, I'll probably just wait till it comes out on streaming. Like, I haven't even seen Wakanda Forever or Eternals.
Yeah, I mean, they're both. I mean, Eternals. I don't think Eternals was quite as terrible as everyone was saying it was, but definitely there was a lot of missed potential. Wakanda Forever, the aspect I liked the most was how it dealt with Chadwick Boseman's death and T'Challa's death. I think there was something very real there, because it was real. And Namor was, you know, entertaining to watch, but yeah, I mean, it's not the same as it once was with the MCU. Definitely not the same as it once was. And there's just something has got to give. Something's got to change.
Yeah.
Quality over quantity has to be done. Otherwise, people will keep complaining about this for like the rest of time, I think.
But like like I said, I just hope this new DCU that James Gunn has. And I think I'm pretty sure I rambled on about this in that DCU video I did on my other podcast. But like, I really want this this new universe to really be a change for it, and I'm really hoping this new Superman movie. Well, ever since then, it's been confirmed that he's going to be directing the Superman movie now, and he's already got a list of potential actors to play Superman, which. I still, like, I think me and Benj were discussing this last night, but we were saying, like, in terms of actors, I'm sorry if you can hear dogs barking in the background, I'm very sorry about that, but, like, in terms of actors, I feel that they should probably do what's worked best for Superman so far, and it's just go completely unknown. Go completely unknown.
Yeah, because I mean, in terms of actors who are around now, it is so difficult to see. At least, I think for both of us, it's very difficult to see any of them as Superman.
Yeah,
Any
and
of
like
them. It's such a tough role.
there's been like I said, like I think I've said this before in the podcast. I've said like there's basically two main candidates for a lot of people that they cast for Superman. It's that Wolfgang, forget his last name, and David Cornsweet, I think his name is. Those two are apparently the ones that people really aim for. But I don't even really think perhaps they should go down that route with them, because the guy that was probably my more so pick to probably play Superman, that has a nice Christopher Reeve smile to him and stuff, which is Wolfgang. He's been fucking bullied off social media for being potentially a fan cast for Superman.
Despicable, guys, despicable.
Yeah. And David Cornsweet, I don't know. I mean, like, he looks a bit like Henry. That's probably about it. And I bet I don't know. And I've heard he acts a bit like he has a bit of that Clark Kent attitude. But I don't know. I mean, I still just think they should just go what works best and just go completely unknown. And I'm pretty sure that is what Gunn is probably going to do.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he it seems like he does have a short list of actors, but it could end up being someone the casting director and James Gunn doesn't expect to be as good as they are, and then that's who ends up getting the role. We'll see.
As long as it ain't Chris Pratt.
God, Chris Pratt Superman would be terrible.
But yeah. Hopefully it ain't Chris Pratt, and I don't know.
Maybe Margot Robbie, perhaps,
as Superman. Yeah. Margot Robbie is Supergirl. Margot Robbie is Lois Lane.
Ooh, maybe.
Dire. By the way, that new Barbie movie looks pretty good. Not gonna lie, we were watching the new trailer that came out while we were having dinner. And I remember all the time when we were younger, we both have siblings, younger girl sisters, and we'd always like bully them and make fun of them for like watching Barbie and shit like that. And we'd be like, oh, shit like that. And then here we are, like 10 years later, watching like they're literally upstairs listening to like fucking My Chemical Romance, or they even drink alcohol now. And here we are downstairs having a nice dinner, watching the new Barbie trailer with Margot Robbie. So it's like
yeah. Well, I must make a confession. I think I did watch Barbie and the Nutcracker quite a few times as a kid.
Yeah, so I think I saw that as well. I've seen some Barbie movies with my sister.
Yeah, so hypocrisy. Hypocrisy from the two of us, I think.
Yeah.
But yes, the Barbie movie does look good. Greta Gerwig is a very good director. And it has a lot of actors in it. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
July's also looking like the bomb, because not only is Barbie coming out, but also Oppenheimer, the movie about the man that created the atomic bomb, directed by Nolan, is also coming out, and that also looks like it'll be good.
Absolutely.
That has a lot of star power as well. I mean, Jesus.
But speaking of good and a bomb, quite recently, The Last of Us wrapped.
Yes.
Finished.
The Last of Us.
I actually I finished it quite recently, because like I said, around the time Comic-Con was coming out, well, Comic-Con, Dublin Comic-Con, I did an episode on it. I basically I hadn't seen the last couple of episodes that were coming out around that time because I was busy doing shit, and by the time he was coming over, I decided to wait until he came over to watch those last two episodes with him, because he'd already seen it. And funny enough, literally right after I finished watching those episodes, we went into town, because I really want to, ever since the show started, I've been really wanting to replay the first Last of Us, but I very specifically wanted to play the remastered, and I've just got this new gaming laptop that's really powerful and OP as shit. But
we're recording it from.
Yeah, and we're getting they released a new PC port for it, but it's
Naughty Dog, shame on you for releasing it at that stage. Shame on you.
Yeah.
Shame on you. I would have bought it if it wasn't for me going to Australia. So,
but it's like, yeah.
Studios, release bare PC ports, please, and don't release it like The Last of Us, because that was terrible.
With that in case, when we went into town and we have a store here called Sainsbury's. We went in, and on that specific day, literally, they had The Last of Us on PS5 on sale for about £40, which is, the price it probably should have been in the first place, because it was a very pricey
It's literally
remaster.
the price of The Last of Us 2 when it came out, which is ridiculous on so many levels.
So, yeah, got myself that, and the remaster on PS5, I'll say. Which, I gotta say, like, a game like The Last of Us, arguably, I feel like is probably better. It is a better console game. Those are the type of games I'd rather play on console than on a PC.
Yeah, I mean, it was originally designed as a console game and was released first on console.
Yeah, like, even when I go on my like gaming laptop and I were to play like the piece like the PC version of Spider-Man, I always go with a controller.
Me too. I can't play it with a mouse and keyboard. I can't do it.
Or Uncharted even as well. Like that as well. I couldn't play that with a mouse or keyboard or anything like that. So I may as well I am more so of a console gamer really, because I just like the comfort of just putting the game on, not having to mess around with the settings or any bullshit like that, and worrying about frame rate or fucking how powerful my PC is and if it can handle it or not. When you get like a PlayStation 5, you put the disc in, play the game, great quality, whatever, it works. I just like I'm a minimalist, as they say.
Minimalist.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a simpleton, but yeah, I like it that way. And so got that right after watching the show. But the show overall, yeah, it's safe to say it's quite a home run, as everyone says it is. But
yeah, and I would also, I just want to point out, and if any studios or any creatives are watching this, I want to explain why I knew the show was always going to be good. I'm going to give you 4 reasons. Number one...
I'm going to go read a book while you do this.
Number 1, the game is fantastic.
Yeah.
It has a great story, great characters. Great characters overall. It's a character study, essentially, the game. Mm-hmm. Number 2, HBO's reputation precedes them. They're a great studio, and they're not like Amazon or Netflix.
Off topic, actually.
HBO
have recently just said that they're going to do a Harry Potter series, possibly.
Yes, which also, I mean, if it was Amazon or Netflix saying they would do a Harry Potter show, I'd be like, this probably isn't going to be good. But it's HBO.
But I'll say this.
They care about quality.
I'll say that. I'll say this about it being like the HBO doing it. Like, a lot of people tend to be very hesitant on it and very like saying, oh, it's going to be shit or whatever. Whereas with me, I hesitate, even though I love Harry Potter and I love those original movies and I love it, and it's the need of a reboot isn't really necessary, because I feel like those movies will always stand the test of time. It's going to be for generations. But I can't arguably say that whenever I was such a young kid around those time, I always dreamed of a Harry Potter series that really was like completely faithful to the books, that in each season was based on each book and it was completely faithful to the books. And I will admit, I always fantasized myself playing Harry Potter, because I love Harry Potter, but I always fantasized myself as Harry Potter in the series, and I always imagined it in my head. And I remember I would like bloody imagine the show, and I'd listen to because for some reason Harry Potter had some of the dopest movie trailers I have ever. And
yeah, I did have definitely Hallows as well.
The music they used for those trailers was so fucking cool, and I remember listening to it, and as I'm listening to it, I was doing action scenes in my backyard with a stick and a wand. I have a wand over there and shit, and I would imagine myself in this show series based off the thing. I'm obviously too old now, but around that time,
maybe cursed child.
You don't even have to cast me as Harry Potter. Cast me as Cedric Diggory, Robert Pattinson's character.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to admit, I've always fantasized a thing like this. So when I heard that this was happening, I was already kind of like, man, I've always wanted that. So, but it's also frustrating that they're doing it now, or we're at a time where I'm too old. Not that I'll probably ever get it when I was younger, but still, it's just what I think about it. But yeah, I just want to say that that's cool. And like I said, if it's by HBO, I think that's probably the only service I'd be more so faithful of it, really.
Yeah, HBO have made some of the greatest television shows ever. If you look at IMDb best television shows,
and Game of Thrones, but with Harry Potter, it's That's yeah. That I gotta say, like, any exception for seeing a reboot of Harry Potter, this would be the exception.
Yes.
But I gotta say, and this is probably the case as well, the casting for the show is gonna be very, very hard and controversial. Like, no matter who gets cast, it's gonna be hard.
Remember, guys, they're probably gonna be young kid actors, so don't fucking. I know that a lot of people just don't have no sympathy and are, you know, dickheads, but remember that. Keep that in mind, please, because, you know. But yeah.
Last of Us.
Anyway, Last of Us. So, great material, HBO. Craig Mazin, showrunner. Chernobyl is a great show. He did also write superhero movie like 10 years before, which I must admit was an entertaining movie.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's probably one of the best of those really silly movies, to be honest.
So, yeah, the fact that he was involved in Chernobyl is fantastic. And has the tone of The Last of Us. So, he had the tone, he would have had the tone right to begin with. And then on top of that, icing on the cake, he's a fan of the game. Yeah. So that was an icing on the cake. Then last but not least, Neil Druckmann, the man who created the games, was involved with the show. Like, actually involved, not just some executive producer BS that they would add at the end of the credits. Actually involved, writing the scripts, directs an episode, is actually involved. So, those four aspects alone, great source material, HBO, Craig Mazin, Neil Druckmann, these are the aspects to pay attention to so all of those, like, great showrunner, creators involved, great network, great source material, you know. God of War, for example, the showrunner made Wheel of Time, which people do not consider to be very good, and it doesn't look like Santa Monica Studios is as involved with the show as Naughty Dog and Neil Druckmann is with The Last of Us. So I don't know, guys. I don't know if God of War is going to be very good, but with The Last of Us, with those aspects alone, I had a feeling it was going to be good from day one, and I was absolutely correct. Because even if, you know, I do have nitpicks as a fan of the games, it is a home run, and I have to applaud everyone involved. Because they did nail it pretty much. Yeah. They did a really good job with
it. They nailed it, and they took liberties with it that did make the show stand out on its own.
And even better, like, there's some stuff that I think there's two characters specifically in the games that appear in the show that are, frankly, I prefer those versions in the HBO show.
Yeah.
I mean,
Bill and Frank.
Yeah, Bill... Well, no, I mean, Bill... Yes, Frank is an original character, but Bill and Sam, specifically, for me, characters that appeared in the games. I mean, Bill was a more sympathetic character in the show. Not sympathetic character, he's just... He seems more human, and they took a different direction with the character than in the game. And frankly, got a better outcome. By the way, spoilers, guys. I think we're just going to do spoiler-filled discussion. Watch the show if you haven't already. Watch it. He got a happier ending in a way, which, I mean, he dies in comparison to the game, but in the game he lives the rest of his days on his own in a town, and Frank is dead at that point. He committed suicide because he was infected. Bill got a happier ending in a way in the show, where Frank lived the rest of his days old age. And yeah, it was a much happier ending for that character in a way, even in death. So, God, that was really great. I think that episode overall is the best episode of the show.
Yeah.
Because it is faithful to the game completely. It has the tone and the feel of the game, but also does its own thing and stands out in the Last of Us universe, which I'm sure was a very hard thing to accomplish. And then... yeah, I mean, all the episodes were really good overall. I mean, the pilot was so good. I mean, first of all, I want to talk about Pedro Pascal as Joel. When he was announced, I remember both of us were talking about this at the time it was announced. It felt like typecasting to have him as Joel, essentially. Because Mandalorian. But man, I knew he was going to be good from the moment he was cast, because he's a good actor. I've seen him and stuff, and he seems like, even in Wonder Woman 1984, he was a standout in terms of the actors in that movie, because it was just movie overall, but I could see he was trying his best with the material that he was given. And yeah, I think with Joel, he was really good as the character. He definitely,
He's definitely a more sympathetic version of
he's more
Joel.
sympathetic, he's more, he's more withdrawn, I think, from his emotions, I think.
Yeah. I'd say he's more relatable than the game version.
Yes, the game version is certainly a more hardened version of the character, and I think tougher version of the character, and while the HBO version is more realistic, he gets tired more easily. He's older than he is in the game as well. He has panic attacks, suffers with PTSD. That scene with Tommy is a scene that is never in either of the games. So to have a scene like that in the show was a really, really good choice. He really nailed it. He's a very good version of Joel.
And so was Bella Ramsey as
Bella Ramsey for me was the better of the two. I think Bella Ramsey, I wasn't sure what to think of Bella Ramsey when she was announced, because I still haven't seen Game of Thrones. I saw scenes of her on YouTube to get an idea, and I thought she looked like she would be good as the character. She looked like she was a good actor. And I was absolutely right. She really nailed it. There was a lot of controversy surrounding her and her not looking like Ellie and whatever, which is ironic because I saw comments from people when episode 9 came out, and people who hadn't played the game said, oh, her mother looks like, Ellie in the show, which is ironic because Ashley Johnson is the original Ellie, so the irony there is quite something. Bella Ramsey knocked it out of the park. I think she was really good. I wasn't sure what to make of her in the first 3 or 4 episodes, but once the Henry and Sam episode aired, and especially that final scene, which was just like the game, from that point onwards, I ended up liking her more than Pedro as Joel. I think she did so well as the character. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing her in season 2 as part 2 Ellie, because that is going to be a tough role to play, very tough.
A tough role, but it looks like they are going to be extending part 2 by a long shot.
Yeah, it is going to be 2 seasons.
Which I think is probably for the best, and also gives them time to really work on because they're probably going to do a part 3 of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives them time to put more material out for the show, but also work on the game so they can make the story for that, so the show can later adapt later. But yeah, I completely agree with everything that you said about Pedro Pascal as Joel and Bella Ramsey as Ellie. But
every actor was really good.
Every actor was good.
Actor was really good.
And even Marlene was literally the same actress as the character
was
in the game.
Same.
It's just aspects of that. And
that's the thing about paying respect. Marlene was the same actress. Tommy from the game is also in the show as well. Jeffrey Wright. He plays a henchman. Troy Baker's in it.
Yeah.
And so is Ashley Johnson.
Yeah.
Ashley Johnson especially, I think, gets such a fantastic role as Ellie's mother. I thought that aspect was absolutely excellent. It's
funny too, because I remember watching that, her in that episode, and literally, she just sounds like Ellie.
Just her grunts in the beginning. I mean, I remember watching. Yeah, you were the same thing. Just the grunts were like, that's Ellie. Yeah. That's the difference between her and Troy Baker's. You see Ashley Johnson and you see and hear Ellie. But with Troy Baker, he's more has different, voices and different roles that kind of make him.
I still say it would be really cool if he got to play the Joker in some live action interpretation of the character. I'd say a thing for the DCU. Imagine if we got Jensen Ackles as Batman and Troy Baker as Joker. Likely not to happen at all. I think for Joker, if they ever did Joker in the DCU, they'd get someone more well known. But still, Troy Baker, as he does voice the character in the game, it's kind of reminds me of John Constantine when they got like the actor from the show to voice the character in.
Oh right, yeah, Matt. I can't remember what his name is, but yes, I know.
Yeah, so like imagine like Troy Baker doing the Joker in some, I don't know, show or some shit like that in a live action thing. I think he's good, and also like even the performance he gave in the show was great too, and not to mention that you can even arguably say like the performance he gives in the games, even though it's motion capture, but like that's the thing, it's motion capture, it's generally like capturing the emotion.
Oh yeah, it's a genuine. Every performance in both of those games is like a real performance because it's motion capture and the voice acting as well.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like, and this, okay, I'm gonna get into a little bit of a nitpick about the show, but there's certain scenes in the show that they're good, really well acted, but the game ends up being better.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I'm probably biased because I replayed the first game so many times. But you know, whether it's like I think just the original ended up being better because sometimes it felt like Pedro and Bella were just reading lines in a way. Like whether it was the magazine scene or the scene where Joel was like, "You're not my daughter." It's not quite as powerful as it was. Well, that scene is meant to be very powerful, and I'm not sure if it was quite as powerful as it was in the game. It's still a really good scene, but that's kind of this is, again, I think when it comes to the main kind of problem with the show, it has to do with perhaps the pacing, and I think it should have probably been 12 episodes instead of 9. It was originally going to be 10, but they split 1 and 2 into one episode, and I think it should have been 12. I think there should have been one more episode where Joel and Ellie were together. It was just another Joel and Ellie episode, like episode 4 was. I think they could have done that either at the university, which they, cut down to 10 minutes, but that was a whole section in the game. They could have expanded that into one episode. They could have had the section where they were in the city right before being captured by the Fireflies, like just that whole section, because again, that section was so long in the game. They could have made that an entire episode, and then the last episode would be focused more on the hospital and Joel's fucking rampage. Yeah, I think maybe that would have been the better outcome. But, so essentially I think that's the direction they should have perhaps gone with and had more episodes to kind of expand. Because, I think most game fans agree that the pacing felt like it was perhaps a bit too quick. However, I mean, it's still very good. Another thing as well is that the writing isn't as subtle as it is in the game, which is, I mean, I wouldn't have expected that. Because I would have thought that the show would have been as subtle, or perhaps even, well, if it could even be even more subtle than it is in the game, because games I would think have to be more in your face than shows. But no, it feels like the show like kind of lays out all of its like themes and what it's achieving. Like for example, Nolan North, who you met, I saw a video about. Shortly after that Comic-Con, in fact, where he was talking about the David episodes. And one of the things he said was that he felt like that scene where he slaps the girl, like David slaps the girl in the episodes, that it was too violent too quick. Like the characters should have perhaps been a bit more... Like, I think maybe... Because the real part in the game where it's revealed who David is like when Ellie's already locked up and he's like, how'd you put it? Tiny pieces? Like, like he is in the game. So he feels like that should have been drawn out more, maybe a bit more subtle. Like, like stuff like that, like, it just feels like it has to tell you everything. And David's kind of pedophilia is also far more, like, present in the show. Like, he straight up, like, trying to rape Ellie at the end, which doesn't really happen in the game. I mean, actually, that aspect, I think, made it more disturbing, in fact. But, it's just stuff like that. Like, and there's certain lines, like Henry says something like, I did a bad guy thing in the episode he's in, which is like a line that's a bit like too on the nose. There's not, like, there's no lines like that in the game. The dialogue is, and the acting is really good and feels natural. And I mean, for me at least, maybe I don't know, people have different opinions about this, but it feels more natural and more subtle. Like this is more realistic. But the show feels like it's saying too much. It's like it's like the advice Robert De Niro gave to actors, which was like, you know, you don't have to do anything dramatic for a lot of like those scenes where you get like big news. You kind of, it's spared to not say anything at all, like just read your faces and not just have some big emotional outbursts, which the actors took. I think that advice. Bella Ramsey in the Left Behind episodes had a lot of moments like that with Riley, like some really good scenes just with her face. You can tell that she had something for, and you know, an affection for Riley. But yeah, just the show itself, like the dialogue could be better, more subtle. And you know, it's not the worst thing. I think it's just a nitpick at the end of the day, because the dialogue is still good. It's not like terrible dialogue. But it is certainly something that could be an improvement in the next seasons. I don't see a lot of people saying that. I've only seen a couple of people saying what I'm saying now, but
yeah, I think honestly, if it'd be more so for people who are like more so like who have played the games.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
I think for like general newcomers to the show, I think for what it is and even the writing and stuff like that would probably be held to a more higher regard in terms of that, because it'd be their first viewing of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm very interested. When I first started watching the show, I started watching it with my mom, and because my mom's been very interested. She's a big fan of the premise of like post-apocalyptic type shows and films and shit like that. And she was already kind of intrigued by The Last of Us as a premise that when I first got the game and shit. So I wanted to watch that very first episode with her, and she really liked it. She thought it was really good. She hasn't gotten around to watching the rest of the series, but I think whenever I think I am gonna revisit the show. Probably I don't really see. I feel like I could probably watch it again right now, to be honest, and I'll probably do that. Or I might do it because they just released a Blu-ray for it, and
yeah. Has it already been released?
No, it has been released. It comes
out.
out.
Oh no, they've revealed that it's coming out.
Yeah, so maybe perhaps around the time that
I would have gotten the Blu-ray if I wasn't going to the show. Fuck.
I'll probably they're releasing a nice 4K steelbook of it on the season 1, so I'll probably get that. But yeah, I might try and watch it around that time whenever I get that. But if not, I'll just watch it streaming. It's not a big deal. But yeah, like I'll revisit the show again with my mom and binge it this time rather than watching it weekly.
This is the great thing about the show, though. People have said like, "Oh, what was the point of the show if it's just recreating the game?" And it's like people miss the point. It's like TV shows expand to a much larger audience, and therefore they get the story that was told in the game. People, again, like Neil Druckmann said, Neil Druckmann's parents, the creator of the game,
it was the very
this is their first time seeing the story he created, because they're just people who won't play a video game. My father as well, I know, would love The Last of Us, but he would never pick up a controller and play a game. But to watch the show, he would.
It's kind of like this is a bit of a comparison to myself, but it's like my folks or my parents, they would never like read comic books or anything like that, especially now. But thankfully I have a very supportive family, and whenever I make these motion comics, whatever, they make it's cringy for me because whenever they do it, but they make a big deal out of it. They always like, oh my god, like Patrick released a new motion comic and shit, and they'll share it online, they'll show it to their friends at work, and they'll put it whenever I release it and premiere it. They'll play it in the living room or in the kitchen for the first time and watch it. And like they don't read those comics, but this is the first time they're experiencing those stories.
Yeah, right. They're seeing that through passive.
Yeah, and they'll be intrigued by what the story was. Like for example, I did quite recently. there's particularly fans of the Dark Prince Charming one, because that was like a sort of like a feature length film, and they had very interesting questions about the story and the plot of like the Joker being the father of the daughter in that story. But that's the thing. That's what I mean. I understand that sort of like, bringing a certain story or whatever to a new format, and it being a new gateway for people, for
audiences, new audiences,
and that's definitely the case for The Last of Us, and it's very happy to say that it was a really great one. It's unlike the likes of fucking Uncharted, for example, where it's like literally Halo, yeah, but like Uncharted. Yeah, it's great. If like for a general audience or whatever, they'll watch it and be like, yeah, it's a good action film. But like when you like, it doesn't really, like, my aunt saw it and she said to me, yeah, it was good. But like I said to her, like, yeah, but it isn't like that isn't practically anything like those characters in the game.
But you see, this is the difference between Uncharted and The Last of Us. Is that Uncharted as a game feels like you're playing Indiana Jones, essentially.
Yeah.
So therefore, the conundrum that the movie has to face is not being like a mediocre sort of Indiana Jones movie, essentially, being something more than that and making itself stand out more. And I think I haven't seen the movie, so I can't say this for sure, but that's the conundrum it faces, is having the characters be more complex and not having it be exactly like Indiana Jones. IGN themselves. Stop for a bit.
No, keep chatting.
IGN said something interesting, which was the characters in the in the first 3 games weren't very complex, but in the 4th game there was motivations for Nathan Drake. He was obsessed with being a treasure hunter. And that was probably the direction they should have taken to make Nathan Drake stand out more as a character. But yes, that's the difference, because the first 3 games of Uncharted don't have like these great character moments and don't have very complex stories, while The Last of Us is a character study, and on its own it's already a great story. The show could have remade the game one by one 100%, and it still would have been watchable. So that's the difference. That's the difference. They just need to know where to make changes and where to make it more interesting for new audiences, and that's the dilemma, I think, with most video game adaptations. But The Last of Us has great material, so they already have a lot of their work cut out for them, essentially.
Great material, and hopefully this will be like the future of like really good proper video game to live action, because like
I hope so.
All the times previously we've had it, it's always been like big departures of like it's this one is not necessarily a video game because it is essentially a book, like The Witcher. I haven't been one to watch The Witcher or anything, but like in like a fan like Henry who stated they took a lot of like differentiations from like the books and the games, and
which, if it adds something to the story like it does with The Last of Us, can really work. But if it just doesn't, then what's the point?
Yeah, like, but also at the same time, you have to have that balance of like doing differentiations, but also doing what The Last of Us did, which was sticking to what they did. Which I think with the case of like The Witcher, they probably did a lot more liberties with it that probably was a bit more different than the source material.
I don't know. I haven't seen.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that, it's rumored that Henry left specifically because of that. But
yeah.
The Last of Us. Whether it was with Bill and Frank, Henry and Sam. Sam is deaf in the show, which I think was such a great change. He's also younger as well, which I also think was another great change. And you just make great changes like that. They change it up, but they keep it going in the same direction, which is the important thing. And they add a lot to the story. Even if I think the dialogue isn't as good as it is in the game, there's a lot of changes they made that were improvements for me, I think. And that's a great thing, There's the fact that Greg Mason made that whole came up with the whole Bill and Frank story and the Sam and Henry storyline in the show gives me hope for the characters in part 2, because one of the complaints, or the things I felt like could have been improved in part 2 is the characters. The characters in part 2 aren't as strong as they are in part 1, especially the side characters. And the fact that Greg Mason is going to be handling that story and those characters gives me a lot of hope. It gives me a lot of hope. Because, well, I guess we'll just jump into part 2, because it's been confirmed that season 2 and season 3 probably, season 3 happens, it's going to be happening. Part 2 is going to be adapted. One of the things I thought they were going to do was that maybe they would diverge from from part 2 and do like an extra story where they could have explored Joel and Ellie more. But the reality is that would have changed part 2 if they did that. Like that story specifically with the way it's structured. So they are adapting part 2. And a lot of people, I think, are frankly in denial because they think that event won't happen until later on in the season. I think they're in denial because the story itself begins, that is the inciting incident, is that event. Not to spoil it for people who haven't played it. I think it's going to happen in the first or second episode, third by the latest. I think it's happening. And I'm sure it'll be controversial, and I'm sure people will be like,
yeah, but especially with like how...
Especially, I think it's just the what they could potentially change is how they do it.
Yeah. Because
the way they do it, but also the way they do it also adds to the story because of the way it was done in such a shocking matter. I don't know. That's going to be a tough one, but the people that think that it's only going to happen at the end of the season, I'm sorry to break it to you, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's happening in the first or second episode.
I honestly, to be honest, I'm actually not sure if they would actually do it that early in the first or second episode. I think for the sake of the character and the actor himself, I think they would probably prolong it a bit, I'd probably say, and adding, well, they said like they're already making part 2 into 2 seasons basically, so I can definitely see them really.
But the thing, I mean, it's just to drag out the story more, and I don't know, especially since that is the event that kickstarts the story of part 2. I just can't see realistically, because it happened so early on as well in the story of part 2, I just don't see how they would be able to prolong it for an entire season. Also, the way I feel like they will divide part 2 into 2 seasons is probably going to be even more controversial, because I think that the only way I can see them dividing it is kind of the way they divided the story a bit in part 2, and that is going to divide people, I think, if not done well. I don't know if they're going to do it chronologically or if they're actually going to do it like the game, because the game works that way for a specific reason, because it's the game. And also you jump straight into it, you can just keep playing, but we're going to have 2-year wait like after season 2 potentially. So I don't know, that's one of the interesting things, is if they will actually pull that off, do that, or if they're going to do something different with it. Structure is going to be the most intriguing part about how they will do part 2, because that is like, very important to the story of that game. So it's going to be interesting. And also, Craig Mazin has said that he is interested in exploring a group called the Seraphites and how they were formed. I also think that they'll explore the WLF. Their leader is played, I hope in the show it will be played by the same person, Jeffrey Wright. He's in the game. He's not in it very much, frankly. He was underutilized. And I really hope he's in the show because his character is really interesting. So I hope that casting is the same. Fingers crossed. I think there would be fools not to. But maybe Jeffrey Wright will be busy with the Batman 2 or stuff like that. Who knows? But yeah, I'm very, very intrigued to see part 2. I'm frankly more excited, I think, to see how they will adapt part 2 than the first game, because It'll be harder to adapt. It's
harder to adapt. And to be fair, in my case, for someone who I do know exactly what happened. I mean, I know more or less what happens in part 2, but I haven't actually experienced the game myself. So I have the liberty of also going to replay the first one, and I'm going to experience the second one right afterwards, and then shortly after, probably seeing that in live action. So I'm already quite hyped in that case for that aspect. So even as like someone who hasn't like properly experienced part 2, you know, seeing that is going to be really cool.
Is also. It's true what people say. Not everyone loves part 2. Not everyone. It divided. That is an understatement. I was there when it came out. I saw the shitstorm of that game when it came out. It was a massive. The leaks also like really divided the fan base and kind of changed the narrative of the game. It did divide the fan base. It is a game that there's a reason it's called The Last Jedi of gaming.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's knowing where to potentially make changes and where not to. I think there'll be stuff that people will be pissed off about anyway, even if they don't change it. But I think there's stuff that they should change, keep the same, even if people won't be completely happy with it.
I think if this first season has really proven anything, I think is they know where to make those changes.
Yeah.
So I feel like with the second one, Neil Druckmann is very much... he's very protective, and he is very like up in arms of how part 2 is, and I don't see him really,
especially when it came out. I mean, it was such a shit story
but I really don't think he's gonna I think liberties will be taken in like certain changes and stuff, but I do not, like you said, I don't expect them to really change it completely.
But interestingly, I remember in Craig Mazin in an interview said that Neil was willing to change more in the first season. And Craig was like, no, I think this should actually be the same. So it's actually interesting. There might be stuff that Neil is comfortable with changing a lot of. Not that main event, though. I think it's going to stay the same. Sorry, guys, to break it to you. But yeah, there'll probably be quite a bit of stuff that's changed. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. And also, while I'm at it, and Neil and Craig, if you're somehow watching this, this is just advice that I'm going to give. To the actress that is cast as Abby and the rest of her group, stay off social media.
Yeah.
That shit was so awful for Laura Bailey when the game came out. So I hope that... that the actress, whoever's cast as her, stays off social media, doesn't get such hate that, it's going to be a tough role. It's going to be a tough role because the character is actually designed to be hated by the audience initially. So it's going to be a tough one, but I'm wishing that whoever is cast as her the best in succeeding in that role, because it will... Yeah, it could be exciting. There is a couple of choices. Florence Pugh is a name that's been going around as Abby. I don't know if that's going to happen because she seems very busy with a lot of her roles. Chloe Grace Moretz as well. And then there's another Australian actress that people are convinced is going to play Abby, but I don't know if that's actually going to be the case. Anyway, it's going to be a tough role, and I'm looking forward to seeing whoever they cast for that role, and I'll be, I'm the casting in this show has been fantastic, so I'm sure they will make the right choice in terms of that role, especially since it's so important. So yeah, I'm wishing the best to whoever is cast as that character and the rest of the group, and also specifically to Bella Ramsey, because part 2 is going to be such physically, mentally is going to be a much harder role, and she said that episode 8, the David episodes, was hard. So, and it's frankly, that's going to be an entire season of that. So I'm wishing them the best, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. I'm very looking forward to seeing it. It's probably going to be coming out January 2025, I would think, with the way I think they're only going to be filming it either at the end of this year, beginning of next year. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. Fingers crossed it's great. It continues to be great. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I'm excited The Last of Us is being brought to a larger audience. That it's a great adaptation. There's so much. It could literally be an entire episode of me going through episode by episode talking about the great stuff that they do. The fact that the ending's the same with that conundrum of, Joel and the Fireflies in the hospital. Yeah, so much great stuff in the show. I would give it an 8 out of 10. I was initially gave it a 9 out of 10 after watching it, but I think an 8 out of 10 is, I think, a fairer rating. And it's still really good. 8 out of 10 is a great score.
It's an 8 out of 10 in its own regard, really.
Yes.
Like there's some films that you'd probably give it an 8 out of 10, but it'd be probably not as up there as, let's say, a show like this, but it's in a different type of category.
Yeah, and Last of Us is closer to a 9 than it is. Than it would be. 7.
I'd probably give it like an 8.5, really.
Yes, 8.5, yes, yeah. I think that is the perfect rating for the show, definitely.
Yeah, 8.5.
There's so much great stuff about the show.
Absolutely.
And I'm so happy that they delivered.
Yeah.
Bravo. You motherfuckers, bravo.
Yeah. That's a bit a nice long ramble on the Last of Us.
It's worth the watch, guys. If you haven't seen it, watch it. I'm such a fan of the games. I could go on an entire episode about talking about The Last of Us, but short story is a great show. Looking forward to season 2.
We've already gone past 2 hours here, but I want to go on one more thing before we wrap up. And this one's a real personal thing to me. And, I mean, if you look around my room, you even look right there. You got the shirt and the fucking quite recently, literally the day before recording this.
Less than 24 hours ago.
They did a 45th anniversary limited screening for my favorite movie of all time, which is Superman the movie. Superman the movie is, this is when I was saying about this is probably going to be a really great year for Superman. But Superman the movie, I mean, when I think of a movie that really has defined me, I do Superman the movie is just, when I was very young as a kid, my aunt, and she was telling, I went to go see it with my aunt yesterday, which was really important to me because I really wanted to go see this movie in the big screen with her. But when I was, fuck off. But I wanted to see it with my aunt, and it was generally because when I was very young, there was a time where I had my tonsils I had infected tonsils or some shit that later had to go to the hospital to get them taken out and shit. And I was very ill, and I was crying, and I was upset or whatever. And I was a really young kid, and my aunt, who's grown up watching so many action films and James Bond and Indiana Jones and specifically Superman the movie, she saw that in the cinemas. Well, I'm pretty sure my mom and my father, they were working or something, so it was just me and my aunt when I was just a kid. And it was, like I said, one night where I was really sick and really crying and whatever. And my aunt was saying to me, do you want to watch a movie where a man flies and wears a cape and shit? And I had this sort of face the fuck? What do you? Yeah.
You've been drinking too much, Hans.
And once she stuck that movie on, man, every symptom I had of being upset or sick, whatever, whooshed away from me, and it defined me. The next day, cape was on. I just remember seeing that. It's weird to say because it feels impossible, but I still remember seeing that one scene, and I recorded it specifically while it was in the cinema yesterday, which was the very first scene where Chris Reeve is just standing there in the Fortress of Solitude in the distance, and the music just plays on, and he flies for the first time. And I remember watching that when I was very young for the very first time as a kid in my little rocking baby tray. That's what they call it, I think. Watching it there, and my God, it's just every time I think of like people ask me, what is your favorite movie of all time? Now, do I think Superman the movie is the best movie ever made? No, I don't. It's definitely not. But it's definitely, for me, the movie that probably means the most. And also, it's just when I watch it, it feels like I am watching an historical event. This feels like I'm watching,
absolutely.
I mean, seeing it on the big screen yesterday amplified it so much more. I was already kind of like when I saw that they were doing these screenings, and I knew they were doing it all over England and London because I knew that they were doing it for the 85th anniversary of Superman.
It might be worldwide even.
And 45th, and they were doing it at the BFI in London as well. So, but I wasn't expecting them to do it here for some reason, perhaps in Dublin or something, but no. But so when I saw this, I was really, really hyped, and I was so excited. I rang my folks. I was friggin'. They were only doing free screenings, and I went to go see it yesterday. And to be honest, I was really tempted to go watch it today, but we're gonna go see John Wick 4 later, so it would be a bit tight. But they're doing one more screening tomorrow as I'm recording this on Easter Sunday, and I think I will go see it one more time tomorrow. But I just wanted to say, that the movie, I mean, it
still holds up.
It's still, yeah,
45. 45? Yeah, God.
Still holds up, and like it's just. I was watching it, and I think to myself, like, man, they do not make movies like this anymore. And like seeing effects like fucking just those practical effects of like, it just blows my mind seeing that the one scene that I always watched. I'm like, holy shit, how this just looks so real. It's like you actually believe it comparatively to like what you would see today. And it's like that one sequence right after he saves Lois. When he gets the plane up and shit, and it's just a simple shot of him just flying across the in front of the camera basically, but it's night, and as he's like turning, the camera turns with him, and he's going upside down and shit, and he flies off into the shadows. Every time I see that, I'm like, oh my God, like I genuinely believe this. And even this another scene as well, I think about like, man, if this was done today, this would just be a completely computer generated character or some shit. But the scene at the end when he's like literally going after the rocket, I'm looking at it, and like even when I was in cinema yesterday, I was like, I believe that Chris Reeve is flying trying to grab that fucking rocket. It just looks so goddamn incredible all these years later. And like the soundtrack as well is still just like
soundtrack is half the movie. John Williams is a master.
Absolutely, and I just wanted to say, like, seeing this movie, the chance that I got to actually see it on the big screen is probably an experience that I'm not sure if I was expecting. I mean, I'm sure it would have happened eventually, and I would have gotten a chance, but to actually have already happened now was just incredible. And I'm actually, like, even just speaking this right now, I literally wish I was in the cinema again right now watching that movie again. But I just love that movie so much, and I swear I could like I have a mate, well, as you know, Rob, who was on the last episode of this podcast. We are discussing about doing a commentary for Superman the movie for the 85th anniversary of Superman. So we're going to do that, probably specifically for the director's cut, not the director's cut, the extended cut, because, well, they did the cut they had in the cinemas was the theatrical cut, which I suppose is understandable because theatrical cinema with shit like that.
Runtime as well.
Runtime, yeah. But yeah, we're gonna do the director's the extended cut, which is the preferred version. They also did do a 3-hour TV version, which I'll admit, like, I do own. Like, Superman the movie is one of those movies I own multiple copies of on Blu-ray and 4K, and they've also, like, they're releasing a nice 4K steelbook that has also the Richard Donner cut and shit like that looks really dope, and I'm gonna get that. But they also released like they only released once on television, which was like a completely 3-hour cut of the film that practically included everything they shot for the film in terms of, like, the productions and set and more. It's basically a showcase of the set pieces of the film. Basically, it's like about a good 50% of the added shot. They added stuff. Not even 80%. I'd probably even say 90% of the stuff that was new was just exposition of sets and buildings and all the props that they made, like Krypton blowing up and the Fortress of Solitude being built, and it's just, you know, stuff like that. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that to any newcomer of the film, unless you were like really hardcore into it. Like if I was, then I'd say yeah, sure. But like even myself, I haven't revisited that version of the film ever since it first came out. But yeah, it's always the extended cut that I always find the best version to watch, because the theatrical cut doesn't have like some of my favorite scenes actually from that I do regard to be one of the best scenes of the movie, which would be like there's a moment right after he has his first night as Superman where he's in the Fortress of Solitude and he's talking to his father about contemplating, you know, not even bothering with the Clark Kent identity and just being Superman all the time. And his father, Jor-El, says to him, like, you can't, you know, you shouldn't do that because you'll never have peace and stuff like that, and gives him a nice motivational speech. And then basically it wraps up by saying, like, his father's like, you know, if I were here for you, like, I would hold you in my arms. And then Christopher Reeve does this oh my god, he does this like heartbreaking thing where he like reaches out his arms to get a hug, and his father, the hologram of course, fades away to remind him that, you know, he's not actually there. And it just leaves Clark alone in the fortress, and it's just like, it just
solitude.
It just leaves him in solitude basically. And it's like, that moment is so beautiful and heartbreaking. And there's also this other great moment which I always like, even watching it yesterday felt like it was missing. It felt weird, which was like whenever Superman goes to Lex after he does the ear rape to him, as he crashes down for the floor, Lex, you know, guns him down with a bunch of miniguns and flamethrower, and even like ices him. And it's such a cool set piece as well. You know, that doesn't really take much time. You know, it's probably about 5 minutes of it, but it's dope ass shit. You know, some of the best visual aspects of the film, showing off Superman's powers in that way. Because throughout the film, we don't really see Superman being shot or anything like that. So, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't.
Except technically when they were being mugged, I suppose that would be Clark Kent being.
Yeah. Like, when he catches the bullet, but we don't see like bullets bouncing off him and shit like that.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie, so that would have probably been a nice necessary action set piece to show off his powers. But yeah, like there was that set piece, and I can't remember much else, but like those are the two main scenes that I do love, that I do like really appreciate from watching the extended cut. But yeah, but nonetheless, seeing the theatrical cut on the big screen was just an experience. And you know, Christopher Reeve as Superman is just,
I mean, that's the thing, there's so much stuff that still holds up, and Christopher Reeve as Clark Kent Superman is one of them, because
absolutely,
I've been saying this to Patrick, but in terms of someone who can differentiate Clark Kent and Superman, he's the only, well, besides you were saying Brandon Ruth, but truly differentiate Clark Kent and Superman. He is the master. Like, Clark Kent feels like such a different character to watching Superman, and he just portrays both of them with such a charm and subtleties. He is so good.
He's so good, and
really
it's like
good actor.
The moment I think is probably the best Clark Kent moment of his entire role as Clark. And it's a very simple moment, but it is some of, in my opinion, the best fucking acting I have seen in my fucking life. And it's so simple. And even Mr. Sunday Movies has gone on about praising this moment because of how incredible it is. But it's literally just after the fight between Superman and Lois. And
I can already. That's a perfect demonstration.
That is literally
of his abilities.
But that is like some of the best fucking acting I've seen in my life, where he just goes from his like, you know, nerdy like self to his Superman persona.
Just changes his body completely. Just the way his neck is like, you know, more
just like
man.
I can't really.
And then he just switches back to Clark in an instant. It's so good. It is so good.
And his voice as well, and just
his voice is different as well. Man,
it's such a great moment. I can't think of any other like superhero changing moment from his identity to his, persona. Is just, it can get any better than that, really. And this movie is just like, I mean, like, it takes a lot of liberties. It's not like the most accurate thing to the comics, Same with Batman '89, for example. Like Gene Hackman and this Lex Luthor, like, is not really much like his comic self, but still, for watching it for what this was and what they were doing, it works for this version.
Yeah, it's a great version of the character. And he's genuinely just very entertaining. To watch.
And
Otis,
an evil
Miss
son of a bitch. But yeah, I swear, like, I have a mate who hasn't seen this movie, Owen, who I did go to Comic-Con with, and I've even debated probably taking him to go see this movie for his last showing tomorrow. As I'll feel like his first time could be really good seeing this on the big screen. And if not, I'd probably like to go see it with my mother, because my mother also loves this film, and we love Christopher Reeve as Superman. I mean, Christopher Reeve as an actor and as a person actually just means so much to me. I own like two autographs of his. I've talked about briefly about the stuff I've got autographed and signed, but yeah, I've got two from Christopher Reeve. I've literally got Hot Toys of his. I've got the Mezco Christopher Reeve. I mean, I could try and own as much as I possibly can of that version. I want to get a Christopher Reeve because like a little, his S is very distinct to that version of Superman. There's some differentiation from the original casual logo. So I'd love to get a T-shirt of that. And man, you know what? Even just watching that movie, I'm not gonna lie. Even though I probably would look ridiculous in it, a part of me was like, you know what? I kind of do want to cosplay that sort of that literal just pure spandex Christopher Reeve Superman. And look, to be honest, I probably feel very vulnerable in something like that. But like, I know a great person who has helped me a lot in terms of life coaching and shit. It's Melbourne Superman. He's on Instagram. I'll probably leave a link to his page. But he cosplays with the Christopher Reeve suit, and he does rock it very well, And it, like, to really, like, it's like, it's something like, well, with Christopher Reeve, right? It's like a lot like suits these days of superheroes. They have a lot of padding, and which I will say does help a lot. Like for example, Brandon Routh with his Superman Returns suit, it was like, the guy trained absolutely incredible for the role, and like he got really big, but that suit did not do him any favors at all in terms of his physical. He just didn't look as big as he would have. But even Christopher Reeve in this movie, even with what he was wearing, he still looked great. He still looked really, really good, and it's very rare. It's a very vulnerable suit to be in. But props to Christopher, because he got into incredible shape for this film and really, really dedicated himself to it. And he really just, it's one of those characters and actors that where they really defined and embodied that character, and made it and not just made it their own, but like made it everyone else's character. Like, I still talk to people today, who, like, I talk about Superman, and they always, mention the Christopher Reeve films, and
he defined the character for ever since the Superman the movie came out. He just it's like with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Yeah,
those three actors specifically. There's probably more, but those three actors specifically defined those specific characters for, let's say, generations.
Well, actually, honestly, probably not even just those three, but like J.K. Simmons,
J.K. Simmons,
Heath Ledger as Joker.
Jameson.
Heath Ledger.
Yes, yeah.
Obviously, Heath Ledger as Joker plays a very distinct version of the Joker that's obviously not exactly like the comics, but for many generations, for a lot of people, that is the fucking Joker when they think of the Joker, you know. So Heath Ledger.
But even Heath Ledger was inspired by Jack Nicholson's
yeah,
version.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, so yeah, you know, it's just Christopher Reeve will always be like one of those you know, it's like we were saying. We've had this discussion before, but like actors that just they feel larger than life, like icons. Like for example, like the actors like. You were saying Sean Connery is Bond.
Oh yeah, I rewatched Doctor No and the Sean Connery movies.
Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones.
Sean Connery's something else as James Bond.
Harrison
Ford is Han Solo, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and you know, just Arnold as Terminator.
Yes.
Sylvester
Stallone as Rocky.
Rocky, yeah.
Or Rambo.
Probably more so Rocky, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely more so Rocky. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, but with Christopher, it's like Superman, and I feel like that is literally, if I could ever name one superhero actor who has really defined the character, it is Christopher as Superman, and it's, you know, it's just finally getting this chance to see it on the big screen was a heartfelt and just great experience for me, and I always hold it and cherish it, and I think I've got it right here, but I still got I've literally got the ticket in my my phone.
Our apologies, audio listeners.
Yeah, sorry, you probably
an exclusive of video.
Hear it there.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Yeah, so I'm probably gonna have that up on my wall, and I'll probably, whenever I go see it again, I'll have that one as well. But yeah, I'm very grateful and very thankful to the local cinema we have around here, which is the Brunswick Movie Bowl, for actually showing this movie. And it, you know, it looks great. It looked fucking fantastic in this quality, and that
was what I was saying. Like, I've been to a couple of cinemas in England, and I've been to a couple of cinemas in Portugal, and this cinema specifically, like, the quality was a lot better than pretty much all of them. Yeah, great quality, I have to say. It's very rare in cinemas. Like, I think they don't bother with cleaning projectors and stuff like that. So, or actually, you know, making sure the quality's improved. So, yeah, pretty good stuff. Pretty good.
Yeah. Thank
good.
You to Brunswick for doing that, and really just reminded. Like, sometimes I do need a reminder of, you know, why I love what I love. You know, because sometimes I do get into these like mental, like, you know, I struggle a lot with my mental health, and, you know, sometimes I get into states where I worry and get anxious about a lot of things, and sometimes these superheroes can, you know, I look around me and I'm like, why do I, like, you know, I can't believe I've got all this stuff, and like, is this really helping me? But then I realized that, you know, like, this is who I am. This is what makes me happy. This is something that's a part of me, you know. It's, you know, a lot of people would always thought when I was younger that I'd grow out of this shit, that I would grow out of, you know, loving Superman or some shit. But I always made the argument of saying, like, no, I never will. And here I fucking am, and it's all because of my aunt showing me that movie as a kid. So yeah, I just wanted to just talk very briefly about this movie, and like I said, me and Rob will possibly do a commentary on the movie. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if we can get it sorted and handle the thing well. But yeah, I just want to discuss just getting to see this movie on the big screen, and how much it means to me, and the character, and Christopher Reeve, and just the dedication of Richard Donner and all the actors who have worked in this film that are unfortunately not with us. Christopher Reeve, Margaret Kidder, Richard Donner, and I have like I said, I mentioned before that I've seen Margaret Kidder at the very first Comic-Con I was at, and she was beautiful and very lovely, and had some really great stories about Christopher on set, and how he would always be signing autographs, and, you know, really taking liberty, and really, like, went into the limelight of being a new actor. And she would always be a bit more introverted and be like, come on, give it a rest, Christopher. But no, Christopher would be like, you know, signing autographs, taking pictures. He loved it. So again, to hear stuff like that was great, and meeting her was great. And
didn't she praise the Donna cut over the theatrical cut?
Yeah, she did praise that, and she also made the like argument with Superman Returns about how silly it was with giving him a son. You know, she did make that thing. But yeah, Superman the movie is just it's an experience, and if you have not seen it, and by any chance of the time you're listening or watching this, and it's by some chance because of its anniversary, it's playing in your local theater, go see it.
I would say if there's any old movie that is, supposedly a masterpiece or really good that's playing at your local theatre,
go see it.
Go see it. Yeah. If it's like first experience, go see it. Why not?
Absolutely, always. It's like for it's like for me as well. Like I still haven't seen Top Gun Maverick. I have not seen Top Gun Maverick because I didn't get the chance. I didn't just have any chances to go see it in cinemas when I was out. But I have really been wanting to watch it recently, but I'm so hesitant to actually watch it because I feel like at some point, because recently they just, because of the Oscars, they put out Everything Everywhere All at Once back in cinemas, and I'd already watched that movie before, but I kind of wish maybe I'd hold off a bit longer so I'd saw it on the big screen. But for something like Top Gun Maverick, which I've all the praise for it was how great it was on the big screen, I want to try and hold off as long as possible until they do a re-release of that movie, perhaps whenever Fallout comes out, not Fallout, the new Mission Impossible movie comes out, that they might do it. I'm not too sure. Like that's something that's like saying by the time, like if the Flash comes out, they'll do a showing of Batman '89. It's that's a comparison really of the likelihood of that happening, but we'll see, I guess. But that's again another movie I'd love to see on the fucking big screen, Batman '89. Because that would be like Batman '89 is also another movie that I could watch any day of the week and never get sick of it. I could watch that movie every fucking day and never get sick of it. And yeah, just this movie just it defines me. It's a comfort movie. It's given me just so much, and having the chance to see it was a bit of a dream come true. So yeah,
I can say it was also very cool to see Superman the movie on big screen. It was very, I mean, it's the way to see it.
Yeah,
it's the way to see it.
Yeah, and seeing Christopher Reeve do that nice smile at the end to the camera.
I smiled back, and then I was just like saluting the guy because I felt like I was actually seeing him.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But I suppose we'll wrap it up there, and we've been going on for
the length of Superman the movie, pretty much.
Bruh, we've passed the length of Superman the movie. It's nearly been like a good 3 hours. Another 10 minutes to be hitting 3. But yeah, thank you all for sitting here and watching us ramble on about a bunch of shit, not really topical. Just a bunch of trailers and films and shows and obviously Superman the movie. So hopefully we'll try and be more we'll see how consistent we'll be with this going forward. Like obviously, like I said, he'll be in Australia, so maybe even if we made it like a monthly thing, possibly.
Yeah, I think that would be
more realistic.
Just if for some reason the podcast isn't consistent or it's on another 2-year break, it's probably because of me. We'll try and do a monthly thing. The time zones are probably...
I feel like, I mean, we do this for like hobbies and fun and shit, and we're not like the Weekly Planet or anything like that. We're just a bunch of dudes talking about whatever's on our mind, so... and if you enjoy doing that, support us and share the show around or some shit, whatever you do, and we do it more so for our entertainment and yours. If you just if you're up for listening to a bunch of nerds rambling about shit, but yeah, we'll see how this goes. But needless to say, I'm glad we were able to do this now and do it for a pretty good length, talking about whatever nice
making up for the 2-year hiatus.
And doing it in person. And as I was saying earlier, sorry for those, like, if you're just listening, we, doing this with filming ourselves, I don't usually do this for podcasts, but yeah, I figured for this case scenario, it'd be better to do it this way. And quite frankly, going forward, I think if we were to do, like, next time we do it, we'll probably be over call. I'll probably still try and record the video aspects of it, but yeah, you'll have 2 formats to listen to the show on, both audio and video. So that's cool. But yeah, thank you all for, if you've gotten this far into the podcast. I gotta say,
hats off to you.
Hats off to you. I don't think I could probably do it. Well, to be honest,
hopefully we've rewarded your patience.
Yeah, and don't know how you're listening to this. Whether you're on the toilet taking a shit, out for a walk, in bed vibing to this. I don't know. Yeah. Whatever it is.
Real vibe.
All those things I mentioned, I would probably judge you as to why you would be listening to this, why you'd be doing those things. But no, I'm joking. But anyways, yeah. Thank you all for watching this nice long discussion fuckery episode of the Movies, Comics, and Life podcast. And I suppose we'll see you all in the next one. And yeah, take care.
Yeah, take care. Also, I've joined Instagram since the last episode, and I would just like to say I will not be giving out my Instagram, so the only way you can contact me is in the comments. So if you have any questions for me, leave it in the comments. I will not be giving out my Instagram. Leave me the fuck alone. Thank you very much.
Okay, alright, you've got all my socials.
I'm kidding, but I'm also not kidding.
All my socials are in the description, so whatever. If you want to support the channel on Patreon, you can do that. Any donation is helpful and shit like that.
Give him money.
Give me money.
Rant.
You'll get your motion comics when you fix this damn door.
Yeah. White Knight episode 3.
Actually, just one more thing. Superman's actually just been introduced into the White Knight universe in the new recent Beyond the White Knight. And again, it's another fucking older Batman, young Superman scenario, which is a bit overdone at this point. But love to see it the other way around. But just wanted to mention that very quickly, which is pretty cool. So I look forward to see, Superman in that universe. But yeah, okay. Thank you all for watching or listening or whatever you do. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, night, evening, week, fucking
sleep. Life.
Yeah, I don't think you can really enjoy your life because life is a bowl of AIDS. Yeah. Okay. All right. Take care, guys. Love you loads.
Okay. Mwah! May the force be with you.
Fuck off.